Education Training Authority. So essentially today we're going to be talking about skills. So if you are at home listening to us, we're asking you, how are you empowering yourself? How are you skilling yourself? So Service SETA today is having its annual general meeting. So they're bringing all their stakeholders together. They influence over 64 sectors, from tourism to anything you can think of that is service related, right? Hospitality, things of that nature. If you want skills in that regard, Service SETA is where you need to go. You need to go to their website and check out what are the courses that they have, what are the empowerment things that they have, and so on. So we'll be talking to some of the leaders of SETA to ask them, why should people care about Services SETA existing at all? So that's really what we're going to be talking about.
You can imagine for Bana Babangata right now. I wonder by guy but there's what we call SETA.
No.
So this is interesting.
Absolutely. We take it for granted, but many people actually don't know. They only hear of the SETAs maybe when there's a controversy. They say, oh, the CEO has left, or the board is not there, or whatever. But what does the SETA actually do? We're going to find out today. You stay where you are and learn. And after that, the issue is, if you need skills, how can the SETA help you? We're going to answer all those questions in this podcast.
So, Mamedi, stay tuned to Uskebe wa Suta. Just to hope happy we are live on which stations? Ki Alex FM, ki Kofifi FM, ki Teta FM, Alfred Nzo Community Radio, Radio Zibonele, Radio Kwezi, Ikora FM, Highway Radio, Mabatu FM, and Vembe FM. Hakibatu hore, wena muntaminyane fela ibe wena tuning in, but everyone, we need to, rebellion skills man. Very important. But today we are going to find out all that.
Wonderful. It's a national imbizo. We are all over the Goa, from Alex to Cape Town. Eh? From Alfred Nzo is in the Eastern Cape, Vembe is in Venda, Mabat, we're all over the country today. So it's a really national imbizo, because the issue of skills development is a national crisis. Right? We've got 34% unemployment rate. What does that tell you?
And I'm worried about it, because that work percentage, you can imagine moving Hufika maybe up until next year, June, July. But because of such, we are here. It's about how change all that. But on the socials, on Facebook we are Alex FM 89.1, and then on Instagram we are Alex_FM Radio. Then on TikTok it's Alex FM_radio. Then X Alex FM Radio 891. And then
But I got a phone. Well, can they phone us?
The socials are the best for now.
The socials are the best for now. Okay.
Yeah, because the comment is
okay.
Mamedi here, you're still tuned into the Real Jules Kebewa Suta. It's the Frank Dialogue, Hona Momo 89.1. Elevate your mind.
Wonderful. Is Professor JJ Tabani with you? I'm going to be joined later on by Tumelo Mototwani, who will join me after 10 o'clock. But we are here with you until midday today. In fact, up to about 12:30. We're going to be going into the annual general meeting of the Sector Education Training Services Sector Education Training Authority. We'll be talking to the administrator. You would remember that the SETA for the last 3 months was put under administration, so they've got an administrator that who will talk to us. We're talking to also the chief executive. But the issue about skills, it's a big issue in South Africa. So Sector Education Training Authorities operate under the Department of Higher Education. They operate under the auspices of that department precisely because they look at really empowering you, particularly post-matric. Once you pass your matric, the question is, where are you going to work? And where you're going to work, they will not get you if you don't have experience. They say, oh, no, sorry, you don't have experience, so we can't hire you. And this is where the Sector Education Training Authority comes in. They give you skills that are relevant to your industry. So if you want to be a waiter at a hotel, for example, they have a course that says this is how to be the best waiter possible. So that when you go and apply for the job at that hotel, at that hospitality establishment, they say, oh, you got a course from the SETA, which means that you know exactly how the industry operates. One of the things that our education system sometimes doesn't do well is that people get diplomas, degrees, and so on. But actually, when they graduate, they've got no idea how the workplace looks like. They've got no idea what to expect when they get to work. They've got no idea how to conduct themselves at work. They have no idea how to relate with colleagues at work. All those things that are going to make you get that job. And if you go to a job interview and all you have is your degree or diploma, and you didn't have practical exposure, which is what the SETA gives you, you are going to be at the end of the queue. Whereas somebody who is actually having sector education training authority exposure, right, will be in the front of the queue and will be able to get that particular job. So we're going to be having that discussion with a range of guests this afternoon. In between yeah, all right. Yeah, Lebu here at Alex FM hosting us here. While based here at Alex FM, we are live on 10 community radio stations across the length and breadth of our country. So please do stay tuned from wherever you are listening to us from. Right. So now we're going to have our first guest who's going to be talking to us. Who is the administrator, who's the administrator of the Sector Education Training Authority. We're going to be talking to him right now. Dumela.
Prof.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
You all right?
I'm good, thanks. Good to see you too.
No, wonderful, wonderful. You know, first of all, we're talking to, we're on 10 community radio stations across the country, from Alfred and Zo in the Eastern Cape to Venda at the Vembe FM in Venda to Mabatu FM. So we are nationwide. It's a national imbizo. We're going to be talking to our people across South Africa. What is a SETA? Let's start there. We take it for granted. You work there, you think, why the hell am I being asked this? What is a Sector Education Training Authority, and why do these things exist?
Sector Education and Training Authority are statutory bodies established through the Skills Development Act as strategic platforms to make sure that we realize education and training at the workplace and among the people of South Africa, especially the youth. These are the institutions that facilitate the flow of resources that we collect through the Skills Levy and the National Skills Fund, and we utilize those resources to disperse them to skills development providers, but also support the employers at the work floor level, and also to work with strategic partners, social partners across the country, labor, youth, and all other formations to support them in education and training.
What is it? Okay, what you offering a student? Let's talk about the student who's just listening there. They don't have skills. Maybe they have a degree, but they don't have employment, right? What is different from what you are offering and from what a university would offer? If these people said, okay, let me just go and do an honors because I'm busy idling at home.
Actually, we do not even start with the student at the university. A student who's at the high school should look at us as a potential sponsor for them to further their education and training. We spend in excess of 150 million annually on bursaries, strictly on bursaries. We support students in universities. We support.
So you spend on bursaries for people who want to go to university as well.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. We contribute in accommodate many of the students who could not make it with NSFAS, and we take care of.
I see. So you could become an alternative NSFAS. How do they get access to the 150 million? Sounds like a lot of money. Do they go to your website to apply there? How do you get a bursary from a SETA, from a services SETA in particular?
There are many ways we put ourselves out there to draw the attention of potential beneficiaries of these bursaries.
Yeah.
We advertise them in national publications. We distribute those resources through universities and through TVET colleges. We also use various intermediaries like the University South Africa, South African principals of college, SAPCO, and we work with other strategic partners within the education and training system so that there can be equitable and fair and transparent distribution of these resources.
I see. Now, let's come now to the actual services SETA. There's a lot of discussions about the SETA in general in the country. Half the time is a negative narrative that just says these things, they just waste money, there's money lying all over the show and so on. Just, take us out of that misery and give us a sense of why this SETA landscape is important, right? For the post-school education landscape. Let's start there. Then from there we're gonna come to, okay, how do we manage these things properly?
SETAs across the country and across the system of post-education and training system, they command quite a substantial amount of resources, which naturally attracts some attention.
Yes.
You see, where there is honey, there will always be some bees and flies and all sorts of things. But also, if you look at the narratives that are peddled in the media about SETAs, half the time are not about our capacity to discharge our responsibility in terms of education and training. The controversies in the news are more about malfeasance conduct by some individuals, but also SETAs get judged for not buying a chair properly, for not buying a table properly, instead of being judged on the basis of their core mandate, which is education and training. If you follow the narrative that is there in the news, there's very little about us not being...
They never said it, we don't train people properly.
There's very little about us not doing our job.
Yeah.
There is more about us maybe hiring JJ and not hiring a TK.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I've got nothing really to do about the core business of the SETAs. And as it relates to the service SETA, I think we're trying to turn the narrative around so that we shift the conversation from unrelated side issues to the core business.
To the core business.
Yes.
Yeah. But the issue is somebody who's listening to say you are the administrator. The first question will be, why did the service SETA need that administrator? You understand? They're supposed to have a board and a full-time CEO and so on. Now they've got an administrator. So it means that you are somewhere in between not having a board and having a board. Can you explain just there in summary why was the administrator needed? And then we'll come and say, you've been here for 3 months.
Yes.
What have you done?
Part of the reason why we're having this AGM today is to report to our stakeholders and the general public about issues of this nature. Why is the service SETA under administration?
Yes.
It's a very sad story, but it is what it is. I mean, this service SETA over the last 7 years, it has never achieved a single, what I will call unqualified audit, not even clean audit, unqualified audit. Over the last 5-7 years, it has not been achieving its target fully.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, where there was a board, the service SETA has been getting all sorts of that negative publicity you talked about because of allegations of malfeasance. There's been a lot of investigations that happened. Some, of course, investigation did establish that there were some misconduct among officials that we're busy acting upon as part and parcel of our consequence management processes. But the Department of Higher Education and Training have deemed it fit that instead of appointing a board to repeat the same mistakes, let's rather take a different approach and appoint an administrator to fix the institution within a period of 12 months. So now it has been 3 months that I've been in the office. Firstly, part of my job was to do a deep dive diagnosis of what could be the underlying issues that are causing all these problems. And those issues have been identified: internal control systems, issues of accumulating commitments that have evolved from R1 billion in the last 5 years to now over 3 billion rands. Issues of not following up on audit findings of the previous financial years, and issues of mismanagement of processes internally, including supply chain management processes. So those are the issues that we're dealing with now. We're introducing new internal control systems so that we can tighten the screws, but also to deal with the deep-rooted causes of this commitment that has evolved over time to become in excess of 3 billion. And so there's already a process in place to eliminate those commitments, because once you've got those commitments, you cannot avoid the danger of getting what we call irregular
expenditure.
Yes, and irregular expenditure automatically affects your audit outcome. So we're now busy with a thorough investigation legally and also from an accounting perspective, so that we understand where are these transactions, where do they come from, what is the nature of these transactions, and we eliminate them one by one but also claw back the money that is now held in the commitments to redeploy it into education and training and to benefit the students who are at school and TVET colleges.
Yeah. Can you simplify for our listeners? Remember, we're talking here about people in communities who may just think we're talking too big English here. So what happened in this 7 years was that, I'm trying to put in a simplest language.
Yeah.
So the finances were not 100% managed well. If we just simplify it, what happens in these 7 years that required an administrator?
That's the truth of the matter, JJ, because if things were done well, we would not be where we are. And what is said is that these things happens when there is full complement of the board. And that is where the ministry says, instead of repeating the same mistakes and expecting different results of having a board, maybe let's try the administrator route.
Yeah. So the administrator said it's a temporary solution.
Administrator is a temporary intervention to level the playing field, to stabilize.
Before you bring a new board.
To bring a new board. Part of my job is
to find a board.
Is to find a competent, not just a board,
a
competent board.
And then the CEO will then the CEO be appointed by that board.
That board its first task is to
appoint a CEO. I see. Yes. I see. How has it been? 3 months? So what give me 3 top achievements in these 3 months that you can say, we're here, we're working, we're stabilizing?
1, we've stabilized the internal control systems, management of how money is spent. 2, we have put in place a process to investigate and eliminate the commitments. 3, we have embarked on a process to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the impact of service SETA actually over the last 25 years. So that we understand how do we fit in this narrative, especially the people who say SETAs must be closed down.
Yes. By the way, they say that because they don't believe in the role of SETAs or they don't understand it. Why do you think they say close down the thing? I mean, it's one thing to say fix it, it's another to say close it down.
You see, that's the unfortunate part of that conversation. They're not saying, what is the problem? How can we solve the problem? They're saying, because there is a small snake in the house, let's burn down the house to kill the small snake. So what we're doing is we're conducting this comprehensive impact assessment so that we are able to scientifically put the case to the table to say, this is the achievement that we have scored over the last 25 years. We have invested over 100 billion into this system. We've produced over 1 million learners out of this system. And all that kind of evidence.
In a year, for example, how many students would you support? I mean, give me some numbers here that I can work with.
In the last 5 years, we have produced in excess of 80,000 learners. Just last year, we've produced about, we've moved from the 2023-24 financial year to 24-25, we moved from 16,000 to 28,000 learners. That we produced.
That's very good. Now, let's talk to this listener now at home, right? Who's wondering, what on earth has this got to do with me, right? I'm a student, I'm at home, I'm hopeless, I don't have a job, etc., right? What sectors are we talking about? Just give me, I know we've got about 64 different sectors, I understand. I mean, just give me 10 or thereabouts of some, just to give a person a sense of what kind of training you supporting a service, because there are other SETAs, by the way. You are the biggest SETA of 21, isn't it? Or how many? 20?
The SETAs all in all are 21. And the service SETA happens to be a little bigger than the rest of them for one reason.
It's the biggest, but don't be modest. It's the biggest of the.
And it's the biggest because in every sector, whether it's construction, it's agriculture, it's IT, or whatever, you find that there is a service
link
being rendered.
I see. So it would say that it overlaps a little bit with the work of the other SETAs.
It overlaps a little bit with the work of the other SETAs, but also there are some specific sectors that they are not being covered by the rest of the other SETAs. Let me give an example.
Okay.
There's no SETA that really looks into the affairs of trade union movement and anything that has to do with labor services.
Okay.
A SETA that covers labor brokers, for an example.
Okay.
The most undesirable partner by the other labor.
The laborers don't like that. The labor movement don't like it.
So we are involved in that space.
Okay.
Look at cleaning services. people think cleaning services is some inconsequential function out there. If you go to hospitals, if you go to the malls, if you go to all these
It's actually
offices,
critical.
Yes.
Because without it, the place will be dirty and people won't come there.
And a very big job creation platform.
Absolutely.
Yes, especially for the least educated members of our community,
Yeah.
who are more desperate for these opportunities.
Yes.
We support that sector. Your sector, communication.
Service SETA supports communication.
Of
Really?
course, yes. Communication and public relations
Yeah.
is one of our chambers that we
That's
work
interesting, but then what it doesn't overlap completely with MIC SETA.
with. No, it doesn't. But we support the sector. For example, there are professional organizations within that fraternity,
Yeah.
like the public relations. I can't remember what is it.
Prisa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those kind of
No,
organizations.
I really didn't know
They are
this. Yeah.
strategic partners in our space. We support them.
This is brilliant.
Yes. Let's go to construction. SETA deals with construction,
Yes.
but we deal with property, real estate.
Real estate. That's a big area where there's a
Yes.
need, especially for young black women, to go into, because it's a very wide dominated industry.
One of the stories we'll be sharing with the AGM today is that we have just completed a very massive program in KZN. We're going to graduate over 600 learners who are studying real estate between January and February next year.
Yeah, beautiful.
They've completed the program, and now they are ready to enter into the space to become practitioners in their own right. And you
Yeah.
know that that space is a historically wide dominated space.
Absolutely.
So now
absolutely.
we
I mean, this is going to be a good intervention
Yes,
on
we're
your behalf.
introducing new players,
Yeah.
very young, very black, very African.
Yeah.
But also our intention is now to broaden the scope of that program to
Yeah.
go into every province, learning from the achievements of KZN.
No, good. You are going to the AGM now. One thing that you want to see coming out, because we're going to talk about it after the AGM, what do you want to see coming out of this AGM? One big outcome.
Very big yet small.
Yeah.
Restoring the confidence of the constituencies and
Absolutely.
the stakeholders into the service SETA.
Absolutely.
Because they've been hearing all sorts of stories and they worry that is our SETA still there?
Still intact.
So we're
Yeah.
here to tell them that it's here, it's intact, and it's here to service you.
That's it. Thank you so much, and all the best for the AGM. We'll talk after the AGM
Wonderful.
at around lunchtime to understand how it went and so on. But we'll also be here to give a sense of cross into the forum there to hear your reports, etc., to give the listeners a sense of what's happening. But thank you for clarifying. Thank you very much. All right.
See you later.
That is the administrator there of the services SETA. Just before the AGM, because you may be at home wondering, what on earth has this got to do with me? And he's clarified that the services SETA cuts across most of the sectors in South Africa. Wherever there's something that links to service, if you are a service-orientated person, you want to create a career in service, the services SETA is for you. They also give bursaries. He says they give 150 million rand worth of bursaries every year. So you may be wanting to go to university to study hospitality, to study media, to study journalism. Services SETA is for you. You've got to keep your eyes open. Go to their website, go to their social media, check out there what opportunities there are. Universities are taking applications now. I know January they'll be taking in students. Do not idle. The very important thing is that you do not idle. There are many, many opportunities. He even talked about NSFAS. You say if NSFAS declines you, because maybe you fall out of the category of the earnings of your parents and what have you, they can assist you not to sit at home and idle. This is the most important thing. You are on Frank Dialogue, special Frank Dialogue on your radio with me on Khoputse, JJ Tabali. And of course, I'll be joined here shortly by Tumelo Motutwane, who will be with me until about lunchtime. So we will be with you crossing into the annual general meeting of the SETA. We're going to take a small break. We're going to take a short music break now, and after the break, we'll be talking some more to some of the officials, and we'll tell you a little bit about what is going to be going on in the annual general meeting of the services SETA. If you are in Alexandra, you are listening to us on Alex FM. You are listening to us in Kofifi FM. If you are in Johannesburg, if you are in the Val, you are listening to us on Teta FM. If you are in Mabatu, you are listening to us on Mabatu FM, Vembe FM. Ikora FM is also tuned in today. Radio Kwezi, and then of course in the Cape, Radio Zibonele. In the Eastern Cape, Alfred Nzo Community Radio. Stay tuned to Frank Dialogue on your radio. We're taking a short break now. From the Services SETA's annual general meeting. We're on the sidelines of that annual general meeting. We're talking to some of the officials before the annual general meeting gets underway at 10 o'clock. So joining me now in our makeshift studio here is Mr. Sibusiso Dladla, who is the acting Chief Executive Officer of the Services SETA. And that, good evening, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you all right?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, you ready for the AGM?
Yeah, it's just the excitement and a little bit of
Yeah.
anxiety.
When last did you have an AGM?
The last one was last year December.
Was it last year December?
So we do
Okay.
one every year.
Right. So would you say then you need to check progress? In other words, are you gonna report what happened since the last AGM, and what would be one or two big things that happened in this year since the last AGM? I mean, if I attended last AGM, the first thing I would want to know is, what on earth did you do since last year?
Basically, what we will be looking into is the plans that we came up with last year.
Yeah.
what has happened and where we are now and what
Yeah.
we are looking forward in terms of
Yeah.
the next 4 years.
Yeah, give me one or two highlights of those plans that you discussed in the last AGM, and they have come to fruition this year that you now can report in a meeting that's about to start right now.
Yeah, I think overall we had presented our stats at the time. We're at the third quarter. So
Okay.
one of the big things was that in terms of learner enrollments, we're going to try and double what we had done in the previous
Double
year.
the learners.
Double the learners that have come into the system.
Yeah, and you've achieved that.
We've actually achieved it. We've moved from around 16 to 28,000
Sure.
just to get learners into the system.
Yeah.
So that for me was one of the main achievements.
Yeah.
And, strengthening our partnerships with your colleges, your universities, your community colleges as well. So
Yeah.
that access now directly to the students has significantly improved.
Yeah. Okay. So I asked this question to your administrator, but somebody may just have joined us right now in across the nation. We're on 10 community radio stations from Cape Town to Eastern Cape, KZN to Gauteng. What is a SETA? And why should somebody in Mabatu who's listening now care about why you guys exist?
Okay. So SETAs are basically an option for students coming out of matric to get into higher education. So universities, TVETs, even private providers that we fund. So
Yeah.
we're a funding mechanism. We don't teach ourselves,
Yeah.
but actually fund students to go into schooling. So we fund learnerships, we fund bursaries, we fund internships,
Yeah.
we fund your recognition of prior learning. Those are the people who've been working for years but have never had a formal qualification.
Yeah.
So we bring them in, assess them, get them to get a formal qualification. Artisans is also a big thing that we
So
fund.
are you saying is it an alternative to going to university?
Definitely. So we fund at all the levels.
Mm.
Just recently we've started funding your universities through bursaries.
Yeah.
But our initiatives really lie between your NQF level 1 to 4, which is basic degree level or higher certificate or diploma. At a TVET, at a community college, at a private college as well. Because we normally fund even training through our employers that actually fund us.
Mm.
So if I can speak to us specifically, we are one of 21. But our sector is services. So we look
Yeah.
at skills in cleaning industry, skills in the real estate space, skills in your marketing space, skills in your labor, so your union-related type training, the guys that work for CCMAs and the likes.
Yeah.
That's who we train in the main. So our area would be more specifically related to your skill sets that are day-to-day skills.
Yeah,
not like
but
professional.
I understand you are into 64 sectors.
Yeah.
Can give me some more? What kind of sectors are them? This 64 is a lot. You can't rattle all of them off, but give me some more types of trainings that people can go into, because part of why we have a 34% unemployment rate is because people are stuck. Like a range of young people, I think it's more than 60-70%.
No, true.
Which is I suppose that's where your intervention is supposed to be primarily, isn't it?
Yeah, no, true. So one of the biggest that we have is call center training. So we train people from
Okay,
just
okay.
a normal call center agent
Yeah.
to a call center manager. We train in the funeral services.
You train them before they get into the call center, or is it like a long course where a person will have a qualification for being in a call center, or how does it work? Do you work with call centers, let's say, to give a crash course
Yeah.
maybe before a call center is launched, because there's new call centers getting launched all the time?
So the way we train with industry.
I see.
So we have an element where we take you to class.
Yeah.
Then there's an element where you are in the industry, where you're
Yeah.
doing physical and actual training. So when you finish the program, you literally have class time education, you come up with work experience, and you come up with a formal qualification, a certificate that you can use to broaden yourself. So other examples would be, for example, the funeral space. We're trying to formalize that industry. So funeral director, your morticians, your embalmers, those type of
Oh,
skill sets.
there's training for that?
Yeah, there's training for that. Even the guys who do tombstones. That's also something that we
Wow,
recently
interesting.
developed.
Yeah.
We also work in the cleaning and hygiene space, coming from your normal domestic worker to laundry services, all the way to hygiene cleaning services, where now your hospitals come into play.
And there are
It's
service
highly
providers
specified.
who do these specific trainings,
Yeah.
who you support.
Yeah, so once we've developed the qualification, we do an accreditation criteria. So once a training provider has the relevant skills, we accredit them to deliver the training. So in that way, we try and manage the quality of the training as well, to make sure that the people who are doing the training are very qualified. we can monitor them. If there are challenges, we can quickly be able to fix them. So we know who's in our database. So one of our other roles, other than funding, is the accreditation cycle. So once we, like I said, we develop a qualification, we develop programs, we accredit people to do the programs, and we monitor them to ensure that the learners that we put into the programs come out successful and they come out with proper education and skills.
It sounds like quite extensive work. I mean, why do you think that there's a lot of noise about then getting rid of the SETAs? I mean, when we were dealing with the budget, I don't you think you remember when we were dealing with the fact that the budget failed, I think 3 times to be passed. One of the things that some politicians were saying was, no, actually just take out, I think it's 20 billion or something that goes to all the SETAs. Why do you think that's the case?
Look, it gets very political, like you're saying now. There was a big conversation in the budget. Right? But the idea is that SETAs are seen to be a waste in terms of the levies that come into fruition. But if you're not in the system and you don't see the actual outputs that SETAs drive, you see it as a waste, because our results are not limited to a university. They're not limited to a college. They're broader. There's other private training colleges that we accredit who have a bigger number in scale. I mean, if you look at the combined results of the SETAs over the last 5 years, we're way above 1 million in learners who've been trained. So, and if you look at the cost versus benefit, we are literally a mechanism for entry into the skills system. I mean, a first year cost at a university is probably above 100,000 if you add in your accommodation and the likes. But at a SETA scale, you can get a learner into a skills program which is around 8,000 to 20 to 30,000, which is low entry. We fund TVET colleges, which their fees are also relatively lower than universities. Community colleges, same thing. Even those that learners don't even have to pay at some community colleges, but we fund those initiatives. So to open access and entry, we really are a key driver in terms of the skills economy. And
would you say that you are at your peak, you are at your maximum in an annual cycle of funding? I mean, how much are you spending a year on bursaries, for example?
Well, it would depend also on the uptake, but on bursaries, anything above 20 million. That's on us as a services SETA.
And that would be your maximum, or is it because people may not know how to approach you to ask for those bursaries?
It would not be a maximum, but I think also, look, there have been challenges as well in getting access and also getting our brand across to say there are other opportunities with such as SETAs. So us also having events like this, doing area exhibitions to teach, especially in the rural areas, peri-urban areas, and we go and we promote.
But if somebody is listening from Vembe FM and wants a bursary of the SETA, what should they do? Do you have offices where they can walk in? And I myself don't know where I would start.
So fortunately, with the development of technology, there's a lot of almost everyone has access to some kind of a cell phone. So we do have websites. We do have offices in all the 9 colleges. If you look out for the right science, and also we try and target high schools as well. So that information can start from the high school level, grade 10, 11, 12 up.
All right, sorry about that. So you can take it off. So let's now talk about the service SETA itself. Give me 1 or 2 highlights of the stuff that you believe you're beginning to fix, because the fact that you had an administrator means that something needed to be fixed, right? It's been 3 months now. What can you tell me that can give your stakeholders who are gathering here some sense of comfort?
So the big thing on us is stabilizing the image of the SETA. So we've had a lot of engagements in terms of how do we transform the organization. We've got plans to improve on our ICT, business systems, learner management systems, so that our processes are flow widely and broadly. We're looking at even increasing the number of learners we get into workplaces now, internships. We are going to announce a very big project that we are embarking on through the AGM, where we want to really push your graduates who are at home to get into training spaces and workplaces. So that
people who have a degree but they are not doing anything with those degrees.
They're not working, they're not in any education. Or
they're not earning an income.
So that's our real focus for the next financial year, to say, look, let's try and reduce that burden onto the system.
How is that going to work quickly?
It's basically we're going to partner with our employer companies
Okay.
to take in interns. We're going to partner with local governments to say we have a lot of vacancies, so why don't you give you interns?
Yeah.
We're going to partner with colleges, district municipalities, departments. So we're looking at a broad scale of stakeholders.
Yeah.
Where we are saying, if you have vacancies, you don't have the capacity to pay.
Yeah.
You're a full-time employee.
But those employers must be the ones who pay a levy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Levy payers, yeah.
So it can't just be random company just comes that doesn't pay a
So
levy.
it's a dual benefit.
Yeah.
So to also show that your monies are not going to waste,
Yeah.
they are coming back directly to you. Let's fund learners into your space. Let's try and address this national problem of the unemployed youth
Yeah.
while actively upskilling as well.
No, beautiful. You are going to an AGM now. What do you want to see come out of this? That's one or two things.
I want to see a change in the in the image of the SETAs, basically. Like you mentioned, over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of media talk. There's been a lot of negativity. There's been some professors who've come out and disputed the skills development space. So I want people to actually know that, look, in as much as...
Did you invite some of those professors today?
I should hope so. As much as there's all this noise, work continues.
Okay.
And we are a transforming organization.
Yeah.
The rise of the administration, in fact, we were one of the 3 SETAs who didn't fight administration.
Yeah.
Because we felt, look, we've had challenges before.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity.
It's not the first time you are under administration, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that was in the 2014.
2014, yeah. Okay.
So there's been challenges. This is an opportunity to address those challenges directly now.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the time and space to basically loiter and prolong our programs. We need change now.
But what can you just explain in terms of if the administrator is in place, does it mean that they then assume the authority of the CEO and the board at the same time?
So in our case, our administrator assumes the authority of the board. So it's a one-man board, which means decision making is quicker.
Yeah.
And decision making is direct.
Yeah.
We don't have to negotiate positive decisions.
But you still have to follow the PFMA.
Still follow the PFMA. We follow all the legislations, the guidelines. It's just that now we have a very consolidated approach in terms of governance
and decision making.
Making. So instead of waiting a month or two for a board meeting to present a proposal that will assist us, we can engage the administrator directly.
Yeah.
We schedule a formal meeting. Decisions are taken. We move. And
Oh,
so
great.
saying that everything is immediate now.
Yeah.
So it even changes us as well.
Yeah.
as
To
employees,
work faster.
To work faster.
To work faster and more efficiently.
And to think broadly.
Yeah.
The nice part with our administrator is that his thinking is very different from our thinking, which makes us now, we need to move.
Yeah.
And that challenges
Interesting.
us, yeah. So
Yeah.
even the way we've started thinking and the way we approach things completely changed. So I think within the next 12 months of this period,
Yeah.
we're going to see very significant and positive changes.
No, wonderful, man. I wish you all the best in the AGM. We'll talk to you after the AGM to see whether it went the way you planned, and then what we're gonna do going forward. Thank you so much for your time,
Thank you so much.
and all the best for your AGM. We'll be listening.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Okay, that's the acting CEO, Mr. Tata, who was talking to us about what has been going on at the services. If you are just joining us, we are on Frank Dialogue on your radio with me on Kopotse JJ Tabani. We're coming to you from 10 community radio stations today. We're coming to you from Alex FM right up to Radio Zibonele in the Western Cape, across to Alfred Nzo in the Eastern Cape, across to Mabatu FM or Mahikeng FM out in Mabatu. We are really having a national Imbizo footprint all the way to Vembe FM in Venda, where we're talking to you about skills. Ask yourself the question, what skills, right, do you have? And therefore, how can you use those skills to create a livelihood? You need to ask yourself that. If you are a young person sitting at home, we're talking here about some 70%. Some is a big number, man. I know there's a 34% unemployment rate, but for young people, it's close to 70%. It's a very, very scary statistic. It's a scary statistic because the question is, what are these young people doing? If they are not at work, they are not at school, they are just falling in the cracks. And so when we have issues of idle minds, that becomes the devil's workshop indeed. It is the brewing of crime, the brewing of all sorts of things, misuse of drugs and alcohol and what have you, because people are idling. People are sitting at home doing nothing. What do you expect? So we need to be able to say, and there are many, many young people, by the way, who have not applied their minds about what they want to do with their lives. You find that the person has done a matric, maybe they did matric 10 years ago, and they've not bothered to do anything else after that. They don't work. I don't know whether they wake up and do what. And I think organizations like the Services SETA are saying, we can help you to solve that. Do yourself a favor. And a lot of you have phones. You've got a phone, you've got some data, and all you do is to be on social media the whole day. You are on Facebook, talking to your friends, or on WhatsApp or whatever. Do yourself a favor. If you are not doing anything, you are not working, you don't have a skill at the moment that people can buy so that you can have a livelihood, do yourself a favor. Just use that phone. Use that phone and go into Google and say, Services SETA bursaries. See what comes out. Out of there, it will say where you can contact Services SETA, what kind of skills that they give. You heard from both our guests that they were telling you about cleaning. They were telling you about marketing, PR, agricultural services and so on. So you when you Google there, you are able to see what list. Then you can see, what interests me in these things. Then you pick up that phone or you send them an email and say, I'm interested, I would like this skill, I would like to go to college, I want to go to do a diploma, a degree, but do something. There's no excuse in not doing anything, where you are just sitting at home and you are just basically occupying space. You need to understand that in 10 or 20 years' time, when you are left alone, when your parents have gone and they are no longer in this world, you are going to suffer because there will be nobody who will be taking care of you. Got to be able to skill yourself so that you can take care of yourself. As I was saying, we are across the country, the national Indaba. We're going to be crossing now to the news bulletin at the top of the hour, and after that we come back to understand what is going on. By that time, the annual general meeting would have gotten underway. We'll cross into that meeting to hear what they are saying. Do pay attention, because this is about your future. You're on Frank Dialogue on your radio with me, Onkgopotse JJ Tabane. After the news, I'll be joined here by my colleague Tumelo Motutwani, who will be with us until lunchtime. Stay tuned. Annual general meeting of the services SETA with me on Khopotse, JJ Tawan, and of course, as I had said to you earlier, my colleague Tumelo Motutwale is joining me. Tumelo, hello.
Good morning to you. Good to see you.
How are you?
No, I'm great. I'm fantastic. And it's just great to see a lot of orange around me, but also a hive of activity from the moment I walked into Gallagher Estate.
Absolutely.
So Services City is meaning business today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people still streaming in Tumelo. They were supposed to start at 10 o'clock, but I think we're headed for a 10:30 start.
That's right.
And we just now finished with the news bulletin. But before the news bulletin, I had the administrator and the CEO just telling me, just basically, what is a SETA? Simple. Because we work there, maybe we work with them, and we take that for granted. So he broke it down in terms of, just in the context of the skills deficit in our country.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure when you finish matric, you're wondering, okay, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
And there are 70% of young people who are in that position today, who are sitting at home doing nothing to me.
Yeah. Don't even know where to begin.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But what's more painful, some of them with degrees, with diplomas, zero activity.
That's right.
They are sitting there. Maybe I don't know how they survive. Maybe survive with a child grant or I don't know. Right? And this is where the SETA comes in to intervene. To me, I don't know what you think about the skills deficit in the country. I'm quite worried.
It's quite concerning, especially given the fact that there isn't a lot of information about the skills services that offer all this transfer of skills right now. I know when I was in high school, we never heard about any SETAs. It was just either universities or colleges.
Yeah.
So where is the information sharing? How do young people on their cell phones, on social media, get to engage and ask questions so that when the time comes to actually take advantage of all these opportunities, you know exactly where to go?
Yeah, I'm very curious. Actually, I'm not sure when the SETAs were launched because, I went to university in 1988. Were you born then? I'm not
no,
sure. Okay.
I was not even a
All right.
concept. I was not an idea.
So in 1988, my dad said, you are going to Hebron College. Hebron College is like 5 minutes from our home. They train teachers. But that was the options, either that or I go to university. SETA, that didn't appear. But anyway, Lizel is going to, who's the operation manager, is going to join us now to just educate us about how this whole thing works and so on. Lizel Kostic, please educate us about your surname.
Liesel Köstlich.
Okay, welcome, Lizel.
But a good try.
I tried. As I said, it's difficult. But you did say what it means. I won't tell anybody.
Okay,
Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start from the beginning. Somebody may just have joined us. A lot of people who are in, as I was saying, were in 10 community radio stations across the country, from Cape Town to Eastern Cape to Venda. Somebody is sitting there listening and saying, what the hell is happening to my radio stations today? What would you say to them in simple terms? What is the importance of a sector education training authority? Let's start there.
I think I like your intro about that particular the function and what the role of SETAs are. So SETAs research and assess skills demand. So we look at what business needs, because you mentioned that there are learners, even graduates, who are sitting unemployed and cannot be absorbed into the labour market. So SETAs for me is the bridge between the world of work and world of education. And we provide funding and we facilitate, and we want to ensure that the qualifications and all the work experience that learners get is relevant for job absorption, so that they can actually access employment.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference between us and some of the other funders out there. So we work very much with employers and with service providers. And you mentioned colleges, TVET colleges, big part of the delivery model, and there are 50 public TVET colleges in South Africa, and they have a lot of campuses.
Right.
So they have widespread access to all of the listeners in every community. And so we would fund also through TVET colleges and partner with TVET colleges as a critical component of delivery within the PSET system, the post-school education and training system.
Yeah. So Liesl, if I could just jump in there. I mean, when I think of learnerships and skills programs, you're quite particular about who you're targeting. Very much a learner from a previously disadvantaged background, very much someone that doesn't necessarily have a qualification of some sort, not currently in an institution of higher learning. Why that niche target of young learners, that group of young people in our country?
So I think not everybody is academically inclined. Not everybody wants to learn in a in a classroom. You know, so it's the practical learning element. So a learnership is a qualification, but it's a mode of delivery, which basically says 30% of the learning is in a classroom and 70% is in the workplace. So a lot of the occupational qualifications and the whole emphasis is around work experience. And recognizing that divide. The majority of people are probably not going to be inclined to academic learning, although there is a knowledge component and you can't get away from that. But how do you reinforce that skill into something tangible? And that's through the actual work experience. I think even in mainstream qualifications at university, every qualification you have applied learning. You know, you do, you learn the knowledge and then you do assignments and you apply it to a case study and a context. But the real learning, the real skills is developed when you actually have the work experience. And that's the majority of our cost structure as well. Most of our programs, especially for unemployed learners, come with a stipend, and it makes up the majority of our cost structure. Very different and difficult to equate it to academic qualifications, because the nature of what we're doing is totally different. And we do target, Tumelo, you mentioned who do we target? We are targeting NQF level 4, which is your matric equivalent, so matric leavers, school leavers, up to NQF level 5, 6, so you don't have to go straight into a degree, an undergraduate degree, which is an NQF 7. There are other qualifications and alternatives out there that could be very meaningful to be able to access a job and to get started, you know. And it's not a 3-year. Sometimes students would look at a 3-year qualification and go, oh my gosh, I can't imagine committing
for 3 years.
That long, you know. It's a long time. So if we could do a 1 year and then articulate and progress, and I have to earn money, I have to live, I have to feed my family. I mean, households, you know, there are a lot of dependents in households, child-aided households even, and you know, so we want to ensure that you can incrementally achieve and go up. You don't have to aim for the top and feel like it's out of your reach.
Can I just ask you, that means there should be a lot of collaboration with industry. In other words, you know, industry should be able to rely on you to give them the skills that they need. Unlike where you're just doing a general academic BA qualification and then nobody wants to hire you because you actually don't know any work. How is that going? I mean, is that collaboration solid in terms of industry and yourselves collaborating to give them what they need so that you don't give them skills that are going to follow out into the market?
So I'm going to answer it in 2 parts. The first part is that we conduct research. Every year we issue a document called the SETA Skills Plan, and we look at where absorption is happening and where the mismatch between supply and demand is happening. And then we target that mismatch based on what we've spent on and allocated in terms of qualifications, the nature of the qualification, not just the mode of delivery. So that's really important. We get this data from industry. So levy-paying employers, that's where our revenue comes from. It's not from the fiscus, but it's from sector employers who have a payroll over 500,000 per annum. They contribute through SARS, they contribute a skills levy, and it's really intended to incentivize investment in skills development, not only for employees of those companies, but also unemployed learners, to create opportunities for that workplace experience. So it's that research that identifies exactly where we should be focusing our spend on in terms of the fields of study, and the occupations linked to that. I do think that we could mobilize and have more applications from our sector. I think there isn't, we're certainly not getting a high enough percentage of our employers in our sector applying. And
why?
So I think the requirement is that they submit annually an annual training plan and annual training report with evidence. And if they're levy-paying employers, they will be able to get a rebate from us, from their skills levy. So at the moment it's a 20% rebate. So they pay 1% to get 20% back if they make that submission. There's some compliance elements that's needed there, some documentary evidence basically. And then they would automatically get that grant. So I don't know if maybe we need to invest more in skills development facilitators,
Yeah.
which is the kinds of people that employers would rely on to help them to
Yes.
put that together.
Right,
you
Yes.
know?
right.
And they also need to conduct skills audits to ensure that, the skills that they're planning for are relevant to their business.
That's right.
And so there is a bit, it's administrative in nature, and some employers do not see the value of that return on investments. And so we have, as a SETA, offered training for skills development facilitators, and the uptake hasn't also been what we would have expected.
Yeah.
So I think there is some
Shouldn't you be targeted like
mobilization.
HR practitioners,
Absolutely.
because they are the ones who in a company would introduce like learnership programs, and sometimes they do it badly because sometimes the learners that you fund just sit and idle in these workplaces
True.
and are used as an HR stopgap measure. In other words, I've got 5 vacancies, can I just have interns? Let me not be bothered by salary for that year for the 5 interns. How do you deal with that?
So I think just in terms of mobilizing employers, I think that we need to, we can always streamline our processes, because if that's where the biggest bottleneck is,
Yeah.
and we're continually looking at how we can do that, but we do need to access those HR practitioners in our sector employers, and we do need to encourage them to participate and to access the grants.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a link between mandatory grants and discretionary grants, because if you are implementing and investing in skills development, it's a natural progression to
Yes.
then apply
Yes.
for additional top-up funding to the SETA, which we call discretionary grant funding. When there's an advertised opportunity, you learn how the SETA works, you understand the processes, you're already engaged in skills development,
Yeah.
and then you can easily apply for additional funding, and then you can have funding for your interns. Remember, your interns are not a replacement for labor. Your interns are there to learn.
Yeah.
Actually.
They're there to gain workplace
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So they can't make up your workforce.
Unfortunately, that's what's
Yeah,
happening out
that's
there.
what
eh?
it is.
Sometimes
Yes.
what's happening.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
But
what's
they
happening.
need somebody to learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're not even
ratios-
assigned a person to mentor them. I understand that you are changing that now in terms of if you give me interns, I'm supposed to give them some kind of a mentor
Yes.
who will oversee their work.
Absolutely. So in the transition from historical qualifications to occupational qualifications, that's the second part I want to come back to,
Yeah.
focuses on work experience. And it also strengthens the skills needed to support learners. They call it workplace mentors. So there needs to be workplace mentors, and it's your supervisor.
Yeah, yeah.
It's your middle manager, it's your management team that you now want to supervise learners and learning. It's not the same as employees. They might need a few extra skills, some main skills for learning outcomes. They need to know what the exit level outcomes of the qualification is.
Yeah.
Or if it's an internship after the qualification, they need to make sure that the nature of the activities that the learner is being given is aligned to their qualification, so that they're getting tangible skills. I mean, we do see sometimes interns being placed in workplaces that's completely unrelated to their qualification. That's not going to enhance their absorption capacity and put them in better stead when they apply for jobs.
Right.
It's not going to give them that competitive advantage to get the job. So it's quite exciting. There is a skills program that's an occupational skills program that's registered with the QCTO, and it's specifically a short skills program that for workplace mentors.
Yeah.
And so I think that there are some exciting opportunities that
All right.
the SETA wants to look at investing in
All right.
around that,
Yeah.
to ensure that when interns are placed, they get the right support and can be successful.
Yeah, I want to also come to the application process for skills development facilitators wanting to obviously apply with the services SETA, but also when it comes to your discretionary grants. How rigorous is that process? Do you find that some start the process and then leave it somewhere because it is lengthy, it is detailed, and I suppose for the right reasons? You want to make sure that quality, intentional, committed partners here are coming to work with you as you offer these skills to young people.
Yes. I think that sometimes it is overwhelming for entities, especially when they're smaller in nature, to apply for discretionary grants, and then your pre-compliance requirement documents is like 5 or 6, and one of them is tax clearance. Obviously, it's an important component for pre-compliance. And then when we do due diligence, we would assess, do you have the capacity to implement? So I think we need to find, we need to be developmental in our approach. I mean, we can't expect every entity to have all the requisite skills to be successful in applying for discretionary grants. And we do and have tried to develop organizations and entities. We call them lead employers, which are the grant recipients, but they can also be a skills development provider. They can be an intermediary who has clients that they interface with. So the nature of the entity needs the capacity to be able to implement. And it's important when we place learners in for work experience, there's a host employer, and that host employer needs to have the right and relevant and an approved workplace, basically, to host learners. So there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to improve on. The ratio of learners to employees, for example, mentors to learners. I think that there's a couple of things that we need to improve on and build internal controls on. But definitely we need to be developmental, and we need to be providing skills to ensure that both the supply and demand side can implement and produce learners. I wanted to just, Tumelo, answer the question you were asking about who accesses the grant. It is important because we're not funding learners. We're funding entities who then recruit learners.
True.
And so where and how do learners look for these opportunities, because they can't come directly to us? So I just want to answer that very briefly and say that they need to look at the Service SETA's website, they need to look at the sectors that fall within our scope, and whether any of those sectors they're interested in studying qualifications towards. And then they need to start engaging and looking at at LinkedIn and social media of the employers. Like I used to, when I was young and finished varsity, I would go to the companies. I mean, in those days, we didn't have social media.
You'll go physically.
We actually had the yellow pages.
Yes.
The yellow pages.
And I mean, I come from a German background, so I was told you will look for a job for 8 hours a day, because if you had a job, that's what you'd have to do.
Wow, that's interesting.
I'd be paging through the yellow pages and writing to your HR department.
Yeah, you go to classified.
Those were in those days. Now there's a lot more opportunity. You can connect with people on LinkedIn. You can scroll and troll through social media without even being seen. But you can also explore linkages and connections. And it's very powerful connecting with people and individuals. And you might not think you're going to get a hit or a response. But that one person might respond and give you a thread that could lead to something real in your life.
I want to talk a little bit about employers or possible host employers who may be listening. So here's a small business hires 10 people. You've got space for 3 or 4 employees, but they are not levy paying. Can you just deal with this thing about levy? Yes. How do you become a levy payer, and what does that mean in actual rands and cents for a small business that's turning over maybe only R1 million a year or something?
Yes. So it's linked, the levy, the skills levy is linked not to turnover but to payroll. So if your payroll,
I see. Okay.
So if your payroll's over 500,000 per annum,
if it's less,
then you are required to pay a skills levy. If it's less, you're a non-levy paying employee. You still fall within our sector, and you still have access.
Or you have access, so you can still access the discretionary grants
grant funding for interns.
If your payroll is below 500,000. Okay, that's very interesting.
And some of our scope for advertisements is not always limited to services sector employees. So we sometimes our qualifications are in demand across sectors because of the nature. I mean, if you think about management and business services, a business administration, any management qualification, it's needed across all sectors in South Africa. So there are sometimes opportunities that are not strictly only for services SETA sector employers. There could be other employers who want to implement our qualification. So it's all in the specification of the advert that employers
I see, but
need to look at.
what is the take up by small businesses for those
Yeah,
opportunities?
look, I think
Because
it
I
is
had the
challenging.
sense that only big employees can maybe access those kind of opportunities, for example.
Yes, so small and medium can absolutely access it. It's whether they're prepared to go through the administrative process to get it.
Yeah.
Okay?
The
And it's
process.
not
Believe me,
impossible.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's
yeah.
tough, eh?
Well, what we do see is those intermediary role players, you
Yeah.
know, so where there's intermediaries or a skills development business who has clients across sectors.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, they come in and they play a really important role to be able to give opportunities and small numbers of learners to different host employers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the secret lies in collaboration and networking and communication and forming your networks and knowing how you can get what you need.
That's
But
right.
there's nobody does not have access, let's put it that way. But you need to be smart about how you form those partnerships and how you create access and
Yeah.
facilitate access. Because they can absolutely benefit
Yeah.
from having 2 or 3 interns, and
Yes.
those interns benefits.
Yeah.
And often after an internship, I mean, this is what's so important, is if you're an intern and you go into an employer and you're competing with 20, make sure you stand out.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, because there might be 2 or 3 jobs out of the
Yeah.
20 that could be created.
Yeah.
And it's the top, the competitive edge sits with the top performers.
Yeah.
And so don't become complacent once you've got the job either. Like
Yeah.
we host a lot of interns every year as a SETA. We have to practice what we preach.
Yeah.
And we absorb a lot of our interns. So the message I would want to say is, if you get the opportunity to become an intern,
Right.
you know, make sure that you put your best foot forward every day.
Yeah. I want to also touch on learning materials, the
Yes.
quality of learning materials and sourcing learning materials. We know that moderators, facilitators, assessors play quite a crucial role here in the actual transferring of skills, whether it's physically or perhaps with workplace experience in terms of telling the students what to expect. Take us through how important of a role the learning materials are in our classrooms and, with time obviously at the work when you're gaining that experience.
Absolutely. So learning material is something that the skills development provider develops, and it has to be aligned to the curriculum that's registered for that qualification. That's accessible to everybody because SAQA is the authority that then registers the qualification.
Yeah.
And I often go to SAQA's website and go and look at the detailed exit level outcomes and the modules that are covered
So
by the
many.
qualifications, how
Yeah.
many credits there are. So the learning material needs to be aligned to that. And when a provider gets accredited, they get accredited with the learning material. So that's the important role, is that, nothing stops a skills development provider from implementing a skills development, but in order to access funding and in order to get recognition of a certificate,
Yeah.
it needs to be aligned to SAQA's registered qualifications,
Yeah.
and therefore you need accreditation from the SETA under which that qualification falls.
And that's important, JJ, because we know that with digital skills, with technology, with AI, skills sharing, in as far as learning material is concerned or a curriculum, it's always evolving.
Yeah,
Yesterday's
absolutely.
curriculum is old,
It's
already
different.
for
Yeah,
today.
it's outdated
Oh
already.
already, so quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like back in the day we can use a Shakespeare book for 300 years.
Yeah.
Now everything is changing like this. So it means the SDP has to be really up to standard, so that SAQA can then say, no, this fits to
This
what is
fits,
needed
yeah.
for today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You are in charge of implementation. I'm curious about. I'm asking a lot of questions about business. It's self-interest because I'm thinking we should be having interns, more interns.
Yes,
I'd like to take
I like
interns,
it.
take an interns
You do.
at our own cost, though.
do, yeah.
Now, if a business says I want 3 interns, right? Because it's going to be January now, most of the kids are finishing honors, whatever, or junior degrees. They want to go into the workplace. They want to gain experience first, right? Is there a window where people can apply to say I want 3 interns, or there is a continuous program that is there where we can contact you and say, listen, we've got 3 interns we want to hire, can you fund them? How does it work? Just explain that mechanism, because there's many small businesses in all these communities who actually can do with interns, who can learn something about running a small business and so on, but they don't have the administrative capacity maybe to actually get you to fund those interns. Just give us a tutorial just on that.
So again, if there's an advertised opportunity, then the
Yeah.
employer would have to apply.
Okay.
discretionary grant funding
Yeah.
for those interns. And it would be so we have targets for interns, and I think our targets for interns is going to increase in the next financial year.
I see.
So there are some announcements that I believe
Yeah.
might be coming out, but I don't want to preempt any
Okay.
announcements.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think
But just give us an
yes.
idea. Yeah.
So there would be that opportunity for applying as an entity to
Yeah.
get interns, irrespective of the number
I
of
see.
interns. And if they were granted and awarded, then there would be a process where they would recruit the learners, enroll the learners, register them with us. There's some documentary evidence. We need to ensure that it's not ghost learners, that the learners are real live
They
learners.
exist.
You know, we need to get ID numbers,
Yes.
ID
Yeah.
copies, certified IDs. We need to check their qualification. Do they comply with the particular internship? There's different categories. Like there
Yeah.
could be a category for a university
Yes.
graduate who's finished their qualification
Yeah.
and wants to do 12 months. There is a category for a TVET college learner who
Yes.
wants to do,
Who must do a practical in order to graduate?
well, that's called work integrated learning.
With integrated
So
learning.
that's
Yeah.
part of the qualification.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you get that for universities and TVET,
Yeah.
where they need to do a particular number of months
Before they qualify.
qualify.
Yeah.
So that's starting. I think that's going to be mainstreaming a lot more.
Yeah.
You're going to see your traditional universities that are starting to integrate learning into their qualifications.
Yes, because that's important for
Very
industry.
important. So at the moment, a lot of the work integrated learning sits with the 6 universities of technology, and we fund the universities of technology, and it's through that the learners would then get identified for opportunities for
Alright.
placement.
To me, we got to go in. Apparently, the AGM is about to start now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Liesel.
Thank
We,
you for
we
having
certainly
me.
are going to be in touch. Lots of interesting information you've given us,
That's good.
and we hope to connect with you soon. Thank you so
Jojo.
much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Liesel.
Tumelo.
Thank you so much.
And greetings to your listeners.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. We are going to, well, you're on a frank dialogue on your radio. We're coming to you on the sidelines of the AGM of the SETA. We are now, the AGM to me is getting underway. I think
Yeah.
we should cross in there and listen in. If we are ready, we can go through into that particular meeting to hear what is being said, and we'll come.
Everyone for making time to attend this meeting. It is indeed an honor to have each and every one of you with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today as collective, as Services SETA stakeholders, the Services SETA staff, to ensure that our stakeholders know what the Services SETA has done in the previous financial year, and to make sure that our stakeholders understand our operations, performance, and the status of the organization. We would also like to outline the direction of the organization in the coming financial year. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an agenda which will be flighted, and we will adhere to the agenda for our meeting today. As you will be aware, the Minister placed the Services SETA under administration and appointed Mr. Lehlohonolo Masuha as the administrator with effect from the 19th August 2025. With us today, we are joined by the Services SETA administrator, Mr. Lehlohonolo Masuha. I would like to acknowledge our esteemed stakeholders that are with us today and those that could not attend the meeting. I would like to acknowledge the Services SETA management. We have with us our executive managers, our senior managers, and the entire Services SETA staff. As we proceed with our program this morning, I am going to ask the Service SETA Administrator, Mr. Letlogonolo Masuha, who will come after me, to do the formal opening and the remarks and welcome for this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Program Director, Mr. Kwambe, our Company Secretary. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the shareholder representatives present here from the Department of Higher Education and Training, Mr. Lungisa Tunzi. Acknowledge the chairperson and members of our Accounting Authority Audit and Risk Committee, the chairpersons and members of the 6 chambers of the Services SETA and their respective constituencies, the acting CEO of the Services SETA together with your team, Mr. Zaza, the representatives from the National Skills Authority and the National Skills Fund present here, and the representatives of our strategic social partners across all the chambers, particularly the labor movement and the civil society representatives, the CEOs and the representatives of SETAs within the sector, and the principals and board members of our TVET colleges across the length and breadth of our country, the representatives of the National Youth Development Agency, together with the representatives and leadership of the TVET Colleges Governors Council, and the CEO of the South African Principals of Colleges, and the representatives of various universities present here today, and our friends within the fraternity of the skills development providers, previous, present, and future beneficiaries of the Services SETA services, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Service SETA 2025 Annual General Meeting, which is now declared duly constituted. We meet in this morning, few days after the world has witnessed a historic occasion as our country hosted the first ever successful G20 summit on the African soil under the South African presidency. It was at this summit, convened under the theme Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability, that leaders of the most influential group of 20 nations declared and said the following, I quote, "We meet against the backdrop of rising geopolitical and geoeconomic competition and instability, heightened conflicts and wars, deepening inequality, increasing global economic uncertainty and fragmentation. in the face of this challenging political and social economic environment, we meet against the backdrop, as we note with distress the immense sufferings and adverse impact of wars and conflicts around the world. These prominent leaders, under the stewardship of President Cyril Ramaphosa, further declared that, building on the G20 principles of inclusive economic growth, employment, and reduced inequality, we recognize that employment is a central objective of economic growth and that good quality jobs and decent work must be at the heart of sustainable industrialization. Robust labor institutions, fair wage setting mechanisms, and universal and adaptive social protection are essential to reducing inequality and fostering resilience. Close quote. They further resolved in the summit, and I quote again, as leaders of the G20, we share a vision to harness science, technology, entrepreneurship, and indigenous and local knowledge in partnership to unlock new pathways to prosperity, leaving no one behind. We recognize entrepreneurship as a cornerstone of this vision. We acknowledge the role of startups and micro, small, and medium enterprises as the engine of job creation, innovation, and local development, close quote. We're meeting here this morning, 3 months after the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Mr. Buti Manamela, outlined a policy statement on his plans for the post-school education and training sector in South Africa, wherein he stated the following. In his words, he says, I quote, "The truth is that our post-school education and training system remains fragmented and uneven. Too many young people are locked out of opportunity. Too many skills taught are not the skills the economy needs. Too many institutions are underperforming. Governance failures weakens delivery. Funding models remain unstable. Data is incomplete. The system is not coherent enough to guarantee the return on investment that South Africans expect. After 3 decades of transformation, 10 years since fees must fall, and 20 years since our universities and colleges mergers, we must admit that progress has been uneven. We must learn from the past and fix what is broken and reimagine what is possible." Close quote. Exactly 7 days after this profound statement was made, the Department of Higher Education and Training announced through a government gazette the placement of the services SETA and 2 other SETAs under administration, as per the provision of Skills Development Act. This 2025 Services SETA Annual General Meeting is convened after different set of circumstances of a SETA under administration. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take this opportunity to reassure our stakeholders that despite the governance challenges experienced in this entity over the last 7 years or more, the service SETA is not a paralyzed institution which is unable to fulfill its mandate. It may be limping, but it's not broken. This AGM provides an opportunity for us to share with the shareholder, together with the stakeholders and the general public, about our performance for the financial year 2024-2025. And it is indeed regrettable that 2024-2025 financial year marked an uninterrupted record of poor audit outcomes and inadequate achievement of performance targets. According to the Auditor General South Africa, AGSA, these challenges could be attributed to, among other things, poor forward planning, leadership, inadequate efforts to clear legacy balances, methods of estimation used to determine and assess provisions, and processes followed to evaluate discretionary grants awarded. During the period under review, we have recorded a historic commitments, which is estimated at 3.4 billion rands. Which means this amount of money is lying somewhere and is not being put to good use for the benefit of the ultimate beneficiaries because of the challenges that I've explained. The historic commitments negatively affected the funding opportunities for the new projects and created audit challenges due to, among others, unverifiable commitment balances and the existence of untraceable service providers. Poor forward planning has resulted in the late opening of discretionary grants windows and awarding of those DG grants, compounded by the ICT system challenges that we had experienced. And the ICT challenges experienced throughout the year under review resulted in, among other things, learner information management and reporting, resulted in inadequate learner information management and reporting, and also affecting the delays in commencement and closure of learning interventions. Furthermore, delays in bursary funding payments to institutions of higher learning due to multiple reporting and reconciliation processes affected our reputation, our integrity, and capacity to effectively assist students in institutions of higher learning who are in need of our assistance. Their access to education, access to accommodation, access to learning material, living allowance were affected because of our incapacity to disperse their funds on good time. Moreover, we are not proud of the low impact in training interventions for designated groups, such as learners in rural areas and interventions to support people living with disabilities. Challenges in the delayed development of external integrated summative assessment, what we call ISA tools, resulted in learners not being assessed on time, post the conclusion of their learning programs. Although development processes and timing have been improved, it is still not at the level that support all occupational qualifications learning interventions. We remain concerned about the sectoral funding, which is not aligned to the levels of levy contribution by sectors and subsector employers that needs to improve, as it has been identified that some of our high levy payers, when we create opportunities for them to access these benefits that are due to them, that they are entitled to, they do not take advantage of these opportunities. And it looks unfair that people who are not contributing into these levies are benefiting more than yourselves. And it is our wish that you could take advantage of this opportunity especially for the benefit of your employees. Ladies and gentlemen, during the period under review, the service SETA was afflicted equally by allegations of malfeasance and gross misconduct, which triggered internal investigations, which also involved law enforcement agencies. Work is currently underway to enforce consequence management and accountability. This myriad of challenges constituted the hotbed which supposedly contributed to this situation where we find ourselves in, of the service SETA being under administration since August 2025. The services SETA is duty-bound to provide hope to many disadvantaged, especially the unemployed youth and workers yearning to access quality education and training, and no unwarranted man-made blockages can be tolerated under the circumstance. It is our intention to eliminate all the man-made blockages that makes our people and the beneficiaries of the services provided by this SETA to deal with those blockages decisively so that our people and our stakeholders can have access to this SETA and the opportunities it's offering. Nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, despite all these challenges, it is not doom and gloom. We are pleased that the discretionary grant expenditure for the period under review accounted for 51% of the total budget spent, which shows an improvement from the previous financial year of 48%. Our revenue has increased by 12% compared to the previous year, 2023-2024. Now we are sitting at a total of 2 billion rands and 87, and over the last 5 years, we've moved from 1 billion to 2 billion rands, which is a significant increase, which makes the service SETA one of the most sizable SETA among the family of SETAs in our country. Our learner enrollment results increased from 16,000 in the year 2023-24 to 28,000 in the during the period under review, which effectively constitute, which resulted in a throughput of 80%, which we believe is a great achievement. And I thought this will be appreciated by stakeholders. We are pleased with the employers within our sector who continues to absorb graduate learners from our training interventions, and some graduate pursuing entrepreneurship endeavors that contributes to job creation. And we're working with various other stakeholders outside the SETA's fraternity to create opportunities to support graduates that wants to pursue a career in entrepreneurship so that we can provide them the necessary support to realize their potential. And as we march forward, we commit ourselves to widely open the doors of education and training for the workers within our sector and the much deserving unemployed youth. We remain committed to achieve, amongst other things, the following key milestones. It is our commitment to increase funding of our levy-paying employers, especially the big employers who give us this lot of money that we access annually for the benefit of our beneficiaries. We want them to claim what is theirs. We want to strengthen partnership with employers and stakeholders within our sectors, but also to advance this cause of having employers absorbing learners as interns and subsequently permanent employees. And remember, when you absorb them as interns, we pay for them. All what the employers do is to provide a learning platform for these learners. We're committing ourselves to conduct a comprehensive track and tracing survey about where do these learners that we produce end up. This is an initiative that we do regularly, and we are due to conduct that survey. And this survey comes at a time when we also want to embark on a comprehensive impact assessment on what has the service SETA achieved since its inception. We intend to broaden this bursary scheme to accommodate the missing middle beneficiaries in universities and TVET colleges. And we will be allocating and dispensing no less than 200 million that will be supporting students at universities and TVET colleges. And we also commit ourselves to invest in entrepreneurship development through the development of entrepreneurship centers across the country. It could be in a TVET college or a university, so that we are able to support these learners that wants to pursue the path of entrepreneurship. We're committing ourselves to promoting research and innovation through strategic partnerships. We have already entered into several partnerships with strategic partners, including some universities, and we want to invest more resources in that space so that our programs, our decisions are evidence-based going forward. We have also taken a decision that we're no longer interested in the hit and run approach when we work with TVET colleges. We're no longer interested in one night stand. We come in, we're gone. We want to provide a comprehensive support to TVET colleges so that we capacitate them, we give them the necessary capacity to navigate through this transition into the occupational qualifications, but also to make a contribution in strengthening and supporting the image of the sector, which is being looked down upon by ignorant people. And this is a commitment that we have made, and we will be making announcements very soon about these plans that we intend to roll out. And as part of the turnaround of this institution, we intend to be improving governance systems and performance by embracing the use of information and communication technology so that we also transition from service SETA operating on the traditional models that are not in keeping with the new changes of the information age. And we also want to improve the efficiencies in the disbursement of discretionary and other grants that we provide. We want to start on time and finish on time, every year, year in, year out, by using forward planning as a strategic approach to improve efficiencies and also taking advantage of the technology at our disposal. And lastly, we want to foster a culture of accountability and prudent use of public funds. And that is the reason why, even when the former Audit and Risk Committee's term of office had expired, we had to renew their term of office, especially for the purpose of this period of the administration, so that we can walk this journey side by side with them and tap from their knowledge and expertise to support accountability processes internally. And it is also part of the reason why we reached out to the chambers and said to the chambers that even when there is no board, even when your terms of offices have expired, we want to renew them so that you are an integral part of this journey of the administration, so that we work together to solve the problems of this institution that is looking after many of our people and many of us present here. According to the South African Quarterly Labor Force Survey, for the third quarter in 2025, as released by Stats SA, it reported that official unemployment rate has decreased to 31.9%, coming from 33.2%, which is good news for this country. It says that employment increased by 248,000, while the number of unemployed persons decreased by 360,000. We may not be able to quantify our percentage in these numbers, but we know that we are a contributor in one way or the other. These developments gives a glimpse of hope that through constant efforts and resilience to grow the economy and support job creation initiatives, we can turn the tide against unemployment. During the next financial year, we will embark on an ambitious plan to enroll no less than 20,000 interns graduating from our universities and TVET colleges, working side by side with the industry. And as we turn the tide against the legacy of commitments and claw back the funds that are sitting in the reserve pools, this will give us an opportunity to increase our annual expenditure to go beyond the 2 billion allocation, but to invest in excess of 3 billion rands the next financial year. And we're doing this thing because we want to demonstrate our commitment to cause an injury, to lack of education and training opportunities and unemployment, which is affecting many of our people. We want to make our contribution in that space. We will partner with strategic partners like the NYDA, National Youth Development Agency, and other public entities to deepen the agenda for youth development through education and training. And as we prepare for the graduation of over 600 learners trained in real estate skills in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we intend to roll out this initiative across all the provinces in the country in partnership with the Property Practitioners Regulatory Agency, commonly known as PPRA. This initiative will go a long way to transform the sector by creating opportunities for new and young historically disadvantaged individuals to become practitioners and entrepreneurs in the sector. It is our mission to give hope to the hopeless and to bring about meaningful change and opportunities where none existed. And we dare not fail. As Amiga Cabral would say, we shall not go around telling lies and claiming his victories. I thank you. Oh, sure, Mr. G. Oh, you are next.
Thank you. This year, we showed up in communities, in boardrooms, in classrooms, in places that needed hope, structure, and possibility. Project by project, milestone by milestone, we built, we delivered, and we made real impact. Here's a look at the journey we walked together.
The Services SETA has concluded a highly successful financial year from April 2024 to March 2025. This year, we journeyed the length and breadth of South Africa to engage with our stakeholders. We connected with learners in KwaZulu-Natal, skills development providers in Gqeberha, TVET managers in Cape Town, suppliers in Mpumalanga, assessment centers in the Northwest, and graduates in Kimberley, ensuring all territories of the Republic were visited. In total, we met in person with over 15,000 key stakeholders uniting to drive our skills development mandate within the services sector. The year began strongly with a focus on our youngest stakeholders, high school learners soon to enter the post-school education and training sector. We attended 33 career expos, speaking directly to an estimated 11,245 learners. We also launched several special projects. One exciting initiative was the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone program. This project trains local communities in skills that align with opportunities within the economic zone. To date, it has enabled 2,200 beneficiaries to access markets during and after their training. The timing of this initiative was pivotal, coinciding with major automotive companies reporting record sales and expanding their local production. The launch was held in Johannesburg. Another key initiative, launched in partnership with the Africa Civic Education Foundation, addresses a national crisis highlighted by President Cyril Ramaphosa. This program educates and highlights preventative actions to eradicate the social scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. Launched in Polokwane, Limpopo, it has already benefited over 5,000 people. Given the large scope of our portfolio, we serve a diverse range of clients, including institutions of higher learning. We successfully joined hands with the Wits Business School and the Gordon Institute of Business Science. Our agreement with the former funded 70 learners for an NQF Level 7 project management course, with graduations taking place in the first quarter of 2025. Our partnership with the Wits Business School will also see the creation of a new Center for Entrepreneurship Development, dubbed the Wits Crucible. This 8-story hub will be based at 47 Main Street in the Johannesburg CBD, ensuring central access for all. We also partnered with our TVET colleges on the Train the Trainer initiative, ensuring a smooth transition to the occupational qualifications framework. This upskilled 22 TVET managers in curriculum development, awarded skills programs to 40 CET lecturers, and gave 69 TVET lecturers vital industry exposure. And as of 31 March 2025, the services SETA now boasts over 61 registered occupational qualifications across our industries, creating more pathways for your success. As the year drew to a close, we opened our mandatory grants window. This allows employers to claim back up to 20% of their skills development levies. For this financial year, a record 5,182 employers submitted claims. Of these, 4,316 were successful, a strong success rate. Looking ahead, we urge you to apply for our 2 currently open funding windows. The first is a discretionary funding window aligned to our strategic priorities. The second is the special project window. Both windows close on the 9th of December 2025. Develop and grow with us.
To present the annual report of the Accounting Authority's Affairs, please welcome Mr. Sbusiso Dladla, the Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Services SETA.
Morning, everyone. It's a pity it's a bit dark in the room, because I prefer to pick about 5 people who smile consistently when I speak, but now I can't see any smiles. So if I can ask maybe the first few tables here to smile so that I can feel your smiles, and then it'll give me a better presentation and a better feel for today's conversation. But let me formally greet. My name is Sbusiso Dladla, as introduced, the acting CEO of the Services SETA, and allow me to also greet our guests within the post-school education and training ecosystem, the labor and collective services industries, cleaning and hiring services industry, the real estate and related services, personal care, management and business services, and communication and marketing. Our guests from the media as well, and lastly, the team from Services SETA. And I do welcome everyone to today's session. Our theme for today, in essence, is talking about rejuvenation, rebuilding, and transforming the services SETA into an organization that is future focused, an organization that delivers, an organization that thrives on renewal. The one thing that we really need to look into, especially within, is a review of where we've come from in terms of our history. What were the main challenges that we were faced with, and what we need to do going forward to make sure that, in as much as we are within the last 5 years of the NSDP period, but we make sure that our throughput actually goes beyond 2030. We need to be an impactful organization, and we need to be a very, very focused and transformative organization. Our theme is also a transforming organization focused on accountable performance. As Mr. Masuha mentioned earlier, that accountability needs to be one of the key driving factors that also drive us in terms of how we operate going forward. When the administration was announced, and noting by the calls, the messages, and some of the emails and the engagements that I've had with a lot of the stakeholders, most in the room and some who could not make it today, was way too from now. But as an organization, we took a stand and a position to say, we are not going to oppose the period of administration. At some point, we also need to change, and things really need to change. And the rate of acceleration of change needs to be very high, because as the media spotlight was on us, and the conversations outside us were being held, it was a sign that something needs to change. We need to look within and generally rebirth the organization. Our colors are orange, we're a very bright institution, but the last couple of years have sort of dimmed that brightness. So we look forward to this new generation and this new version of the services SETA, so that in as much as it benefits us as the internal staff by virtue of naturally getting paid salaries, etc., but the broader scope of impact needs to really be driven across the entire organization. So my presentation is going to touch on a few important things. We'll go through reflections of the past year. We'll look at our organizational performance as well, some key highlights, and I'll also touch on some challenges that we faced, which I hope that will resonate in the room, so that when we call for support, we are given the necessary support that we need, in particular, our employers that contribute levies to us. I'll also touch on our service delivery. I'll touch on the future plans that we have, as particular from the value chain that we want to achieve and drive our annual performance plans. As you know, we plan on a 5-year period, and our build-up to that 5 years needs to be very accelerated so that we can improve. Just to recap who exactly we are, our vision is a flourishing services sector that creates economic growth and inclusive opportunities for all South Africans. This is what drives us, and this should always be the mantra that allows us to operate within our desired industries and obviously our delivery mandate. Our mission is to facilitate skills development for employment and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship being one of the key pillars that we also need to focus on. As we all know, with the high unemployment rate, not everyone will be employed into the formal space. So we also need to have opportunities to drive entrepreneurship and ensure that while we're pushing employment, we are also driving the economy from the side of creating small businesses, creating your medium enterprises as well, and driving business and growth within our economic sectors. Our values remain the same, being accountability, which is a key highlight and focus of this new generation of the organization, and innovation, meaning we need to be very innovative, meaning our processing needs to continuously be innovative, and we need to look at other elements of where we can bring in skills that we don't have internally that will drive the delivery against our mandate. Integrity, we need to change our value system to operate from a position of integrity as well, maintain what we have, and also ensure that everything that we do aligns to the value of integrity. Professionalism at all costs, and where non-professionalism is found, we need to also make sure that it is snuffed out, so that as an organization and as a brand, we are seen as a professional institution. Inclusivity allowing us to broaden our horizon so that we can touch as many different sectors of the economy and different sectors of our society as we can. As noted earlier with our special project, which really looks at touching as many designated groups as we possibly can. Then a recap of our 2025 vision. This has been the driver of the first NSDSP period for us as an organization. It was to optimize business processes, which meant we needed to invest a lot in terms of systems internally and systems for our stakeholders as well. We are not at 100% optimal level, but the work that has been done since the early 2000s has really shown a level of growth in terms of ICT systems. We are also reviewing the current mechanisms that we are using for learner enrollments, for accreditation services, certification, your mandatory grants portal. We're actually looking at a business case to migrate to a very higher level and sophisticated learner management information system that can allow us to seamlessly deliver in terms of learning intervention, especially on the side of enrollments to completions and monitoring, and then after, tracking and tracing the learners that we would have spent monies on so that we can see the value that the funds that we've used has actually transferred in terms of upskilling, in terms of absorption rates, in terms of entrepreneurship rates, tracking our learners from when they finish, after 2 years, after 4 years, after 5 years, up to 10 years, using our systems intelligence so that we can know the level of impact that we've had in an organization, in the services sector. Touches on the learners being absorbed into jobs and also the highly engaged and performing employees, noting the history of the organization, having gone through some highs and some dips. It also means that we also need to look inward, invest in our staff, invest in their development so that they can better deliver services, and create a highly motivated and a culture of service delivery within us. We need to improve on the unqualified audit. As has been noted earlier, we've had 7 years of qualifications, but in the 7 years of qualifications, there have been significant improvements in terms of the sophistication of the findings that have been raised. A common challenge that we've had across is on the commitments balance, being the untraceable projects that have been were awarded years ago. So we've had interventions where we've tried to reduce the commitments balance, but we've always found some difficulties in trying to align with it. So we actually started an accelerated program to try and reach those commitments using accounting services to locate first, identify if they still exist. Where they don't exist, we reduce, we terminate and cancel. This also must be done through a legal process which should involve the courts so that when we cancel, we do not have comebacks that someone else will come after 2 years and says, I have a project with the organization, I need to start my project. But this is something that was awarded in 2018, for example. So this project, we're pushing it so that by the end of the financial year, 31 March, we have reduced the commitments balance at least by half. Then we can present our financial statements for audit, and that will be the driver that changes our audit opinion. There are also here and there some internal controls deficiencies, but those are more internal, which we can clean up by having better systems and ensuring that the normal day-to-day operations, reconciliations, and reporting is done on time, accurately, and completely. Skill centers operationalization. This speaks to the skill centers that we've developed over the years in various locations across the country, which was done to improve access, especially in rural areas, so that instead of a learner moving from a rural area to an urban area and having to incur costs like rental, transportation, and the likes, let's rather bring the centers there. But we have to move also with time, which means that just building a brick and mortar center is not enough anymore. Because of technology, we need to start investing in smart skill centers. So we are engaging with a few other SETAs to develop a model that will also use the existing structures so that they become more technologically advanced. Your robotics, your programming, the design through computers, and your building from a design element all the way to production. So these are projects that we envisage that will be able to actually make us globally competitive in terms of the skills that we deliver. Then the 20,000 learners enrolled in occupational qualifications specifically is to assist in the transitioning from your historical qualifications to occupational qualifications, which has been postponed from a number of years now until I think now 2027. So at a certain point, there's going to be a cutoff. So we want to ensure that by the time we get there, we have the qualifications in place, we have the assessment tools in place, we have the workplaces, we have the testing facilities available, we have the partners in the industry as well who will be able to absorb and give us workplace training. So the 20,000 is an accelerated program, which we are now starting to really look into when it comes to our strategic planning. Then a reflection on the journey from the last AGM, just some key highlights. In the main, it has been reflected that we've been placed under administration, so that is a significant change in terms of our governance structures. And it is noted, and we are still continuing with operations, but working through with the administration and supporting the administrator so that his vision for the organization is well delivered and well driven. We've had movement in the funding windows that were previously advertised, which is the discretionary window and the special project window for the 2024-25 period. We are still finalizing the enrollment and commencement of the 25-26, which is still under evaluation. So we are hopeful that by the time that we close off this year, so that we don't also overload our commitments again, we move with what we have so that once we issue commencements, we finalize those commencements, it falls off our commitments, we start new projects. So the cycle needs to continue on an annual basis so that while you're managing skills development, managing your finances as well, you're also not placing the organization in a similar position that we had in the past. We've had some significant movements in terms of delivery. We've enrolled close to, just above 28,000 learners into the system in the prior year. This, if you track it from the financial year 2022, which was literally just post-COVID, we were sitting at around 14,000. So the movement has been gradual, and we believe that as we continue to grow as an organization, we also need to plug in resources internally so that the number can continue to grow because the need is so great that regression is not an option. 2026, as was announced in the video, we've just advertised the 3 windows, the discretionary window, which closes on the 9th, primarily focusing on your training providers, employers, accredited training providers, and generally your PSET sector. Those are your generic learning interventions that we will be focusing on. The special project window is specifically targeting organizations that work with designated groups, disability, rural, military veterans, the youth, township and revitalization. So those really specific elements that touch on our national imperatives is what we'll be focusing on the special project window. Then the new one is on the power of X squared, which is the 20,000 interns that the administrator also announced, which is a first for us to absorb such a high number. But what this project actually means is that we now will be relying on the employers to come to us and say, in my space, I can absorb 1,000, I can absorb 200, I can absorb so much, so that collectively, as the various stakeholder groups, we kill this number in at least 2 years' time, so that we can start another cycle. The idea is that we need to address the gap for unemployed graduates, because we know that those who are not in education, not in training, and not employed, is the number continues to grow as we are pumping the system in terms of skills development initiatives. So we have a lot of unemployed graduates who do not have opportunities. This is our attempt to say, let's actually have a direct impact in reducing that number. That internship program will be targeting unemployed graduates from universities and from TVET colleges, so that we drive the absorption element. We'll also be requesting employers to give us a percentage of how much they can absorb. If I give you 1,000, how many can you absorb after 12 months? So that we link this thing from school to training to employment, and it becomes a value chain for the organization. It becomes a value chain. And we envisage that once done correctly, through proper strategic partnerships, we'll be able to actually use this as a model that can be mirrored across the SETA landscape. Then just briefly to touch on organizational performance, as mentioned earlier, we did have a qualified audit opinion on our financial statements, primarily due to the commitments. However, on the performance information side, we were able to get to a position where the performance reported information was not qualified, meaning that what we reported, finally reported at the end, could be relied on, had proper evidence, and was complete. We still want to maintain that effect, but with the intention to also improve on our internal controls for financial management and financial reporting, then we should be able to, by the end of the year, at least move to an unqualified audit opinion. Clean for the current year is a overreach for us. We want to move it gradually so that we also don't overexpose ourselves by trying to aim too high, but we rather build gradually so that by the time we get to 2030, we are sitting on a number of clean audit opinions that we would have achieved over the time. Then on the performance, we had achieved 77% of our annual performance plans. With administration, our first program being at 88%. This is our internal program, that's governance, HR management, ICT systems, and project delivery. On skills planning, that's your research, that's your transformation imperatives, where we focus on entrepreneurship support, SMMEs. We also focus on trade unions, cooperatives. We focus on rural development programs. A key driver in this space is also TVET support. As mentioned, that we are looking at really driving our support for TVET colleges. From a level of administration, meaning the actual staff of the colleges needs to be capacitated so that they can be able to properly manage the funds that are allocated to TVET colleges and also improve their audit outcomes. TVET lecturers, the mode of delivery and the quality of delivery that our students who go to TVET colleges also needs to be improved. The movement from from historical to occupational qualifications has also placed a challenge, especially in the TVET space, where we really need to drive capacitation of the lecturers so that they can deliver proper and quality education for the learners. So it's a catch-up exercise that we're doing. So it also needs direct and strategic partnership with your TVET colleges. We also then also will support through your normal learning interventions. Program 3 is on learning programs. We set at 68%, primarily due to the fact that we had very low enrollments in 23, 24. So when we are moving towards 2025, that's when we started seeing your learner completions. We envisaged that those that we enrolled in the previous 3 financial years are starting to come out of the system now. So achievement on learner completions and exiting learners should be higher. Also, the improvement around monitoring and evaluation of our programs and the drive to assist on learner exiting will also help us improve. Quality assurance, number 4, which is 100%, speaks to qualifications, development. It speaks to our accreditation processes, which we've always maintained at a high level. In fact, as noted now, we are sitting at around 61 qualifications that have been developed. When we were on the 31st of March, we were sitting at around 48. So there is a movement in terms of our capacity to supply, our capacity to accredit, and our capacity to also develop as well. There are challenges, especially around the timelines between ourselves, the QCTO, and the process that it takes. But these are engagements that are being held at a high level to see how that process can be streamlined so that it can affect better change. Just on a high level in terms of your performance highlights, as mentioned earlier, 28,000 learners of 22,000 which was targeted. Bursaries at 1,005, targeted 1,005 as well. On the bursaries element, as mentioned earlier, we are looking at changing our bursary funding model, where instead of now recruiting learners, we are funding directly to the institutions, and the institutions recruit on our behalf. It eliminates the back and forth, it eliminates the delays in payments, because if we pay in advance, the first thing that it also eliminates is the issue and challenge around registration. We are moving towards the registration cycle in January now. So that registration cycle, we need to start funding at least a year in advance. So by November, December, we fund the institutions recruit, and the learners that we request, especially looking at a sector, automatically are enrolled into the space. So we reduce that pressure that the learners just post-matric would have. On the other side, if we then also pay in advance, it means that we also open up the graduation season now, so that those who finish in the year are not tied into the system where now they can't graduate. So it's trying to alleviate on the pressures that we are seeing as a society as well, and trying to find footprints and support. There's been a lot of entrepreneurship and cooperative development. 1,400 cooperatives have been supported through our interventions. We had rural development projects as well, which we did not really have a high percentage in terms of our support in rural areas, in terms of numbers, which is something that we are looking to accelerate now with the current special project that is coming out. The qualifications that were developed at the time were 16. We've now moved to 61. We've had capacity building workshops that we've conducted and career exhibitions where we've taken them to actually in the rural areas, targeting specifically at a high school level to also teach that the only option is not a university. There are other avenues, including colleges, including us as SETAs, and the various occupations that we have and the various qualifications that we fund as well across the SETA landscape. In terms of our transformation imperatives, we've had in our results 72% funding of women and 28% males into the sector. This is a picture that you see across. When we attend graduation, it literally looks like this when you're standing on stage. So it does show that there's a lot of investment into pushing young ladies into professional qualifications and into employment and also into business. And in terms of your designated groups, 1% was achieved in terms of disability, 94% black, 44% in rural areas, 82% targeting the youth. So in terms of touching on our national imperatives, we do hit highs, but we still need to focus on those areas where we have lower results. Then where we did not achieve was on the qualified audit opinion I spoke to earlier, and the DG allocations which were delayed through ICT challenges, meaning that our programs started a bit later than what we had intended, which now results in us not having an adequate pipeline for learner completions, which is why you'd see under learning programs, the high percentages, specifically speaking to completions, which is purely based on not having an adequate pipeline, meaning in terms of those programs that are now currently being delivered, when we finish the year to come by 31st March, we should have higher percentages because those would be exiting the system now. But overall, we have achieved 77%, moving now to 23%. We are targeting achieving 90% from the 77, moving to 90% for the current year. The ones that we don't foresee we will be achieving are those that also we need to activate now in terms of an active pipeline in the system for us to be able to exit them. But once we start accelerating on performance, then we should be able to achieve everything in the roadblock. Then on service delivery, as I round up, these are just the key external factors that also affect us, which is basically a call for action to say that in as much as we as an organization can plan, we also need support from our stakeholders, in particular industry participation, to be able to open up workplaces so that we can also have workplace training. The participation in levies, which means that because as a sector, as a services sector, we have a very large population of informal industries that we need to work towards getting them into a formalized space. Once we formalize these industries, then we're able to harness the skills development levy to be able to increase in terms of what we can do as an organization and accelerate how we can impact on our organizations. Program implementation as well, as I mentioned, opening up of workplaces for us to be able to partner with different employers so that once you move from your class qualifications and training, moving to a workplace to get the relevant experience, at least when you exit the system, you exit with both training, training, workplace, and formal education. And the other elements, your sustainability, your climate change, there's a significant push towards green skilling now. We've just had the recent launch of the Just Energy Transition Implementation Plan, which we are also participating in to try and find ourselves moving towards supporting the green skilling initiative. The Green Hydrogen initiative that was recently launched also by SETA, our sister SETA, is also a very great opportunity for us to participate in. So we're in conversations that to look into our skill centers to also see if some of the green hydrogen initiatives cannot be filtered to that space. Then societal issues, I've spoken a lot about the drive to reduce unemployment, to reduce inequality as well. The concept of inequality, for me, means that at some point we need to remove a barrier of entry to a formal education system. So equality should be not necessarily about race, but it should be about let's all get to the same starting line and then be educated so that the opportunities are the same. So we need to also look at how we then bring in from a basic education level to now post-school education level where the race and the competition starts at the same level. We are all equal and we move towards success in our different skills. Continuously looking at our skills demand, how to fill vacancies, which is where we need industry to also participate and actually guide us in terms of what we need to train so that it's relevant. It would not make sense to fund so much and then there's no absorption because the skills that we are funding are irrelevant for our industries. The vacancies that are within your industries, how do we assist in terms of making sure that we upskill properly so that we reduce the level of vacancies? Where we can, as employers, we can fund to close those vacancy gaps. Let us bring in our interns to try and assist in productivity, while at the same time benefiting them in terms of skills development and work experience, and addressing the skills mismatch between what is needed in industry and what we are offering as a sector education and training authority. I will just then, because I'm mindful of time, move to just the last slide, the last two slides, to bring it back to formality as well. We still have to align ourselves to the National Skills Development Plan outcomes, which is the identification and production of occupations in high demand, the linking of education and the workplace, closing that gap between those that we fund and how they get into an employment space. A simple example, if I'm funding a learner for 3 years with a bursary, by the time they finish, I should have a internship available for them to enter into the workplace, to train, with the agreement that those that will enter into the internships, industry will absorb a certain percentage, if not 100%. Increasing access to occupationally directed programs, improving the level of skills in the South African workforce, encouraging and supporting worker-initiated training. We also need to focus on training those that are currently employed as well, so that we upskill, we maintain high productivity and delivery of services, especially in the public sector. Local government, district governments, your departments as well. Improving the level of skill that is in the public sector will actually directly drive skills development initiatives that the country is driving. Then your skills development for cooperatives, supporting the public college system, and supporting career development services, which then brings us to our key priorities that are now driving us into the future, which is the operationalization of our skills centers at full capacity and also being technological advanced. The continuous project status confirmation, by reducing our commitments balance, it means then we'll also be able to unlock funds that will be able to train more. The introduction of the lead employers performance rating model, it's a concept that we are finalizing to work on to say that if you're a successful implementer of programs, naturally then when opportunities arise, you should be sitting at the first level of those that receive. But if you're an organization that has challenges on closing projects, then it means it would not then make sense to award higher numbers when we know that you are going to be challenged. Rather, let's find mechanisms of capacitating you to get to a higher level so that we know that when we place a rand into your coffers to train, that 1 rand is fully utilized and we derive value from it. Improving our audit outcome, partnering with PSET institutions, your community colleges, TVET colleges, universities, increasing mandatory grant claims by entities. This is a legislated levy fund that we have to pay, but we need to also make sure that employers who contribute levies actually participate in the mandatory grant claims, because that then gives us reliance that where we can train, the employers are also training internally. Then it becomes a 360 cycle in terms of the levy training skills initiatives that we are doing, working with our trade unions as well. on worker-initiated training programs. These also need to be accelerated because in as much as we are training for employment, we also need to protect employment. And those that protect employment also need to be capacitated on the how. That would be my overview of our former performance in the previous year and where we are moving towards as an organization that is under renew and under rejuvenation. I really call on action, everyone in the room and those that are watching us online, that it can't be an operation done by the individual organization itself. It has to be a collaborative effort. So when opportunities arise, please uptake these opportunities. Where there are insights that also arise, please guide us as an organization to say, where you are moving in this direction is not really where you should be moving. As a benefit for the greater good, this is how we see the organization looking like in the next 5 years. So it is a call for action and a call for collaboration, a call for strategic partnerships, and a call for support as well as we undergo our rejuvenation journey. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. To present the report of the Auditor General on the Accounting Authority, please welcome Mr. Xola from AGSA.
Is it fine? All right. The administrator, the acting CEO, the executive of Services SETA, the stakeholder at large that are in attendance to this morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Xola Kohlagala, as they have already announced. I'm here to present to you the audit outcomes of the Services SETA. As you know that most of the time, when you see the auditors, that they are bearers of the not so good news. But today I just want to ensure everyone, we're here to share the insights with the intention really to influence in terms of what is happening under administration, that to make sure that we mirror in terms of also what is happening on the ground in as far as the service delivery is concerned. So in terms of the mission and vision, the reason for our existence, just to remind everyone that as the Supreme Audit Institution, we exist really to strengthen our country's democracy through the audit work that we perform and the insights that we get to share with the stakeholders at large. Thereby, really the intention is to build the public confidence. And the vision is to remain or recognized by all the stakeholders as the relevant audit institution, which really is there to enhance and enable oversight and also accountability. On the right, in terms of the slide, you'd see a diagram there, which really it's 4 pillars that are emanating from the culture shift strategy of Auditor General, where we envisage in terms of the clients that we're auditing, where they are really driven by the good performance. So the performance which speaks to where you demonstrate the commitment and improvement in terms of the lived realities of the citizens, which is characterized by the people that are able to account and deliver in terms of the legislated, in terms of what is sitting on their documents and the strategy documents, the planning, and also in terms of accountability, we highlighted that the institutions should be really characterized by the accountability. There should be consequence management that is instilled in any areas where we're seeing that we're not delivering in line with what is expected. And transparency, the transparency speaks to the manner in which we are able to report in terms of the work that would have done in a manner that is transparent, make sure that the information, credible and reliable information, is available to all the relevant stakeholders for them to be able to take through or to be able to understand in terms of the performance that would have been delivered by the entity. And lastly, the institutional integrity, which means it talks to the nature of the people that are really entrusted with the responsibility to deliver in terms of the mandate of the certain institution, which they should be behave in an ethical manner that is in line with the compliance with laws and regulations, and also they act in the best interest of the institution and deliver in terms of the mandate of that institution. So in this slide 3, then we give an overview in terms of the audit outcome. I think the acting CEO would have already given you in terms of the history where we come from. So it's a 7th year, this one, that the SETA has been receiving qualified audit opinion. Really, the main issue stems from the legacy contracts when it comes to commitments which could not be accounted or be supported by reliable supporting evidence in this regard, due to the fact that some of the entities could not be traced on the ground or they can't be reached. So it's been the issue that the services has been battling with. But I must say that we have noted a notable improvement in the current financial year. After you would find that the issues that we've been communicating were so immense, there were quite a number of them, but we have seen a reduction in the current financial year. However, based on the assessment, we still see that there are some areas that we still need to tighten up in terms of our processes to get it right from our side. And also not to ignore the impact that these might have in as far as the financial loss aspect of it. Because you'll find that some of these contracts that we can't really trace, there are some monies that would have been processed or payments that would have been made in that regard, which then requires the services SETA or the SETA to do something about it in terms of trying to recover those amounts and trying to take actions against those perhaps that would have allowed or permitted such deficiencies that would have led to those losses. We have noted also in the current financial year instances or the area around the provision, specifically relating to the bursary, the awarding of the bursaries, where we could not necessarily get all the supporting evidence in that regard to support the reported amounts in the annual financial statement. But I guess based on the discussions that we've been having with management, we have seen quite, again, improvement and some planned actions there to deal with it, just to get this area also right in this regard. And lastly, it was around the irregular expenditure. I think the administrator in his opening remarks also highlighted some of those deficiencies in as far as the process of awarding these DG projects is concerned. There were some areas perhaps that needed management to really tighten up in terms of their processes. I think in the main, we put in one of the recommendations that really emanating from some of the control deficiencies that we noted was around the tightening up in terms of the project management. Because if you listen to also the acting CEO talking about those issues of the legacy issues that we're talking about, where we can't really trace these service providers or we can't be in touch with them in any way that is possible from our side. It stems from that. It stems from the poor project management that we really need to find ways in terms of how do we address that to get it right, you know. Because, I mean, as you could see the video that was played here, there's so much work that has been done, really not now being struggled or being not be able to account in terms of what's happening on the ground there. So it's one of those areas really that we need to pay attention. We need to find ways, we need to make sure that tighten up in terms of our processes in a form of policies, in a form of the other processes, the controls that you wanted to introduce in this regard, just to make sure that we take care of those weaknesses within the system. We also wanted to share that as part of the audit that we conducted, just because we looked at 3 areas, it was the audit of annual financial statements, audit of performance information, as well as compliance with laws and regulations. So I would have talking about the area relating to audit of annual financial statements. But when it comes to performance information, we did not identify any findings in that regard that would have been material that necessitated to be reported. So I think there, the only area perhaps of concern is just the achievement of those planned targets, as the acting CEO stressed the importance of that, and some of the ways that the SETA that is trying to drive to make sure that they deliver in terms of what is expected in that regard. But the other area that we could not, that we still need to get it right, is when it comes to the compliance with laws and regulations then. So in the main, we communicated, I think, around 3 areas. The first one is about the annual financial statements. As you would remember that in terms of the PFMA, the expectation is that when these financial statements are submitted for audit purposes, they must be free of any material misstatement. Unfortunately, in this regard, as I've already explained earlier, that it so happened that we identified still those material misstatements that the management still need to deal with. And then the second issue was the prevention of the incurrence of irregular expenditure, as we have already, again, identified instances that have contributed to that, and also from the side of management where they could not really limit the expenditure when it comes to project within the 7.5% threshold as required by the regulation. And the last aspect of it is the prepayment. As you know, right, again, that the requirements in terms of the Treasury regulation is that the only time that you can be able to make a prepayment is when it's allowed by the contract or the agreement that would have signed with the service provider. So there were those instances that we identified that there were payments that were made in advance, but they were not actually allowed or permitted by those signed contract. So it's one of those areas that we just need to tighten up to make sure that at least we also deal with the non-compliance aspect of it. We also put the annual irregular expenditure. In fact, it shouldn't really be annual irregular expenditure. It should be the closing balance of it, which talks to the consequence management. Just to also to highlight the good performance that we have noted in this regard. As you can see, under consequence management, under compliance with laws and regulations, we don't have any aspect relating to consequence management. It's because of the time that the SETA takes to deal with it. It's quite encouraging, really, to see it based on the audit that we have conducted. As you can see, the irregular expenditure would have decreased from 1.2 billion in the prior year to about 588 million in the current financial year, that they need still to deal with those cases. But I must say that the investigation would have been already conducted, but the only part that was left, it was the condonation of those amounts. And again, on fruitless and wasteful expenditure, after it was incurred in 23-24, 24-25, the management managed to deal with that, where they have done what we call the consequence management from their side, and therefore they were able to remove that. So it's quite encouraging in that regard. But the only thing now that we are left with is to deal with the processes around now preventing the incurrence now of this fruitless and irregular expenditure from the side of management. And lastly, it's a concept that we wanted to show that relates to material irregularity. This came about as part of the amendment in terms of the Public Audit Act, where we needed some additional power after we have seen throughout the public sector that it takes a bit of time, really, for the leadership and the management really to deal with the transgressions that we've been reporting on over the years. So after this has been introduced, we then started implementing it. I think it's the 4th or 5th year now that we have started implementing from the side of services SETA. So in the current financial year, we identified only one in this regard. So perhaps just to take you through, or just to remind the colleagues that the material irregularity, it's not really a different process, it's part of the normal process that we embark on. And it's emanating, really, it's coming from the PFMA, it's informed by the Treasury regulation as well. So it means the non-compliance with or contravention of the legislation, fraud, theft, or breach of fiduciary duty, which would have identified when we're conducting our audit during that specific year. So it's part of the normal process. So these areas that are reported on there relating to the non-compliances, they would have led to this or triggered this material irregularity where we had to assess it in that regard. And really they would have resulted, because we also need to check the irregularity part and also test the impact of it as well. So the impact, it would have been or likely to result in a financial loss, the misuse of or loss of material public resources, the substantial harm to the public institutions or the general public. So in this instance, from the side of Services SETA, obviously it links now to the area that we've been speaking about, the commitment aspect of it. As I've already highlighted earlier, that there are those instances where we would have already processed the payments in those aspects that really needed now the management really to follow up in terms of what would have led to that. Of which in this instance, one of the areas that we would have identified, it's the weaknesses around the project management that we need to intensify. And really what the MI seeks to achieve, seeks to make sure that we recover all the losses that would have suffered as the institution, or prevent any further loss that that is likely to be incurred by the entity. We need to introduce or tighten up in terms of our controls that would assist us in terms of not being in a situation where we're going to incur these additional, call it material irregularities. And lastly, and most importantly, is to identify any individuals or officials that would have enabled such non-compliances or any irregularities that had so much impact in terms of the auditees. Once we've done dealing with those aspects of it, that's when we then, from our side, we indicate that such material irregularity has already been dealt with, we are happy with. But as part of our process as well, we then, after communicating this material irregularity, track the implementation of those areas that I just mentioned. After tracking all these implementation, that's when we are able to tick to say such institution is taking appropriate action, or the accounting authority in this regard is taking appropriate action to deal with that immaterial irregularity and making sure that it does not happen again. And just the overall objective of this exercise of raising material irregularity really is to instill a culture of accountability, improve the protection of the resources, enhance public sector performance, and encourage ethical culture, strengthen public sector institutions to better serve the people of South Africa, and lastly, and most importantly, to enable effective oversight in this regard. So I think I would like to end my presentation here. Thank you so much. Yeah.
EGM of the service is SETA. We've been listening to speeches the whole morning about the progress that's been made, challenges that are being encountered, and also the progress that's been happening over there in terms of stabilizing this very, very important SETA. If you have missed the broadcast, you can go to Frank Dialogue podcast or a YouTube channel to see what has been happening the whole morning, including understanding what is the SETA, what is the whole skills landscape, and what can you do as a young person instead of sitting at home to be part of the skills revolution that really this services SETA is leading. It's important that we bring down the numbers of unemployed young people in this country, and services SETA at the forefront of that. They have been in the annual general meeting the whole morning. We're wrapping up that conversation with the administrator, Tumelo Mototwane, who's my anchor here today, will be taking on that interview. Tumelo?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we heard what various speakers had to say. We just got out of hearing from the Auditor General responsible with the accounting side. But earlier on, the Administrator Lesoro Masoro had outlined key milestones, which I think are quite important for us to unpack. Earlier on, we also had Liesel being in the operational side of the services SETA's department. Spoke to us, JJ, if you remember more about the skills levy funding and how they would want to see more employers coming on board. And she broke it down so well for us in terms of what the impact of the levy payment is. But Hlonolo, you're still joining us, and it's good to have you. Welcome back to, of course, the hot seat. I want to touch on the key milestones from your presentation because they stood out for me. They're giving a forward-thinking plan of what the future looks like for services SETA, but not just for you, to the benefit of students, right? To the benefit of young people as you transfer these skills. Let's talk about the point you made around strengthening partnerships with employers as well as the sector, so to absorb these learners to make sure that interns are then in turn becoming permanent employees. Where does the Skills Levy Fund come in there, and how exactly are you going to tackle this front?
We are receiving a lot of money from the employers who are levy payers. This money, we use it to train learners, and the issue is once we've produced these learners, what happens to them? The reason why we want partnership with employers is because firstly, there are two ways in which we want to collaborate with the employers. One is that we want the employers, especially the big levy payers, who are not claiming their share of the mandatory grant, to reach out to us and claim that share of their grant so that they can train their own employees.
Right.
And probably they're not claiming because they don't need it, because probably they've got enough, but we think it's never enough, especially because of the pressure that we have in the country. That's one. Two, we want employers to also create a space wherein they allow their companies to become platforms for work-based training for these graduates that we produce. Because if we produce them and they go to the street, then we're wasting public funds money. But if they're absorbed, they gain these skills, this experience that is needed. Some of them were like they may even be absorbed, but some of them would then be ready to penetrate the labor market because they would have acquired the necessary skills that they need.
You also talk about the missing middle, and when I think about SETA as a whole, it seems like that is the niche target to make sure that for the missing middle young person, the beneficiaries, they have a home in SETAs. Let's talk about broadening more of the bursary scheme to accommodate them and how this would look like. Because for someone listening in and saying, hey, I can't be at a university right now or any other institution of higher learning, but there seems to be a home for me with a SETA, with services SETA. How are you accommodating them?
Ourselves as the SETA, we don't want to be seen to be competing with NSFAS. But there are some gaps that remains open after NSFAS would have done what it's supposed to do. There are children who falls on the wayside during the process of providing funding for those students who are in universities and colleges. So we're saying that somebody has to come in and occupy that space. But also even the resources of NSFAS are just never enough to accommodate everyone. So that's where the SETA comes in as a complementary intervention to support the students who could not be assisted by NSFAS and any other sponsor institution, and that is why we're targeting the missing middle, because the missing middle are very vulnerable.
Right.
Because in the eyes of the system, they are not poor enough to qualify for the support.
Yeah.
Yet they are poor enough not to pay for themselves for the education. That is why they are called missing middle.
Right.
They are rejected by the system because of their socio-economic circumstances. And somebody has to come in and occupy that space and lift them up. And that's why we're saying we want to occupy that space of those vulnerable youngsters.
The thing about this arrangement, Lehlogonolo, as well, is that the actual young people can come directly to Services SETA to acquire this qualification. You have to work with the skills development providers to ensure that they go out and look for these learners as through the recruitment process.
Yes.
And I'm glad you addressed this, because it seems to be a common concern by skills development providers, rather, that there are inefficiencies when it comes to the disbursement of discretionary grants, as well as any other grant. They're saying that if we are a small business or a small SDP and trying to assist SETAs, how are we doing this when funds are not allocated timeously, amongst other concerns? But you address this. So how do you aim then to alleviate those concerns?
Before I deal with the issue of the discretionary grant, I also want to deal with the issue of disbursement of bursary funds. What we have decided to do is to say to universities and colleges that we've got this amount of money. Any child who falls on the wayside and does not qualify for the bursary from NSFAS or anybody else, give them education, invoice us for this amount. So now these children have to go to school and say we are those victims of the system. We want those of learning to be open for us. And because we would have provided guarantees to both the colleges and universities, then they will open the doors for them. They will give them registration, they will give them the study material, they will give them accommodation, they will give them the living allowance, and they invoice us, and we pay for that. So that's what we call opening the doors of learning. Coming to the discretionary fund. We spent too much time this morning describing the nature of problems we have in the system. Discretionary grant windows, that's the language we use in this space. It's almost an equivalent of issuing a tender. You go out and you say, I'm advertising an opportunity for skills development providers, employer associations, NPOs and whatsoever, to bid for the funds, the grants that are available. For you to do that, you need to advertise that process for a minimum of 21 days. If you receive 5,000 applications, you need a minimum of 2 to 3 months to finalize evaluating all those applications. But if you advertise that project in February, March, you will complete that process around August, September. By the time you finish the evaluation of that process, appointing people, it's September. The year is left with how many months? 3 months. In no time it's December, we want to go.
Including the students themselves.
Including the students. For example, if you advertise bursaries in February, what do you mean? Because students must be in class in January.
class by that time,
by that time. So we're saying, we're diagnosing the problem. We say the part of the problem is the issue of poor planning. Hence, we're introducing forward planning. Like now as we speak, we've got the 3 windows open: the discretionary grants, the mandatory grants, and the what we call special projects that are open. They are closing in a few days' time. By the time we get into February, March, we're now ready to issue out letters. When the new financial year starts, people go on site. People do not start, they start recruitment. And in no time, by end of April, May, the learners are in class. Before we close for December holidays, we would have written to every single university in this country, 26 of them, and the 50 colleges, and said, open the doors of learning for the children. We've got this much for them. And we think that's how we improve the inefficiencies in the system, but also remove the blockages.
This is my last question to you, and then JJ, I will allow you, I'll permit you to have a word.
I like that one.
Lehlogonolo, you mentioned the issue around governance. and you particularly ensure that when you address delegates, it's top of what you first address. In as far as services SETA is concerned, the turnarounding of the entity by improving governance is quite important, and that will have a knock-on effect of performance. I need you to address the public now, the general public who may have been seeing services SETA as an entity that doesn't have a culture of accountability, as a platform that or an organization that doesn't make use of public funds responsibly. What are we doing as services SETA now moving forward to have that confidence back from the public?
I think we've, as I said, spent the better part of our time in the morning describing our problems. Had it not been of poor governance processes in the city, I would not be sitting here being called an administrator. I'm here because there are problems. One, what are the problems? We've explained that indeed there seems to be a culture of non-accountability, wherein we know the rules, but we violate the rules. For an example, I just made the example here about advertising a tender. You need a minimum of 21 days. But if you advertise it for 10 days, that's violation of the treasury regulations. Those are part of the problems that we're dealing with. We have appointed people 3, 4, 5 years ago. We cannot account for their whereabouts. But letters are issued, they are there. That's what we call commitment. You can't spend this money until you account for this person. But in the last 3, 4 years, a whole lot has changed in the system. The curriculum has changed, the rates have changed. The students that we wanted yesterday are gone. They are nowhere to be found. Again, you've got a situation wherein, and I want to speak about these governance issues.
Yeah.
You are sitting with a qualified audit for 7 years. Aren't you supposed to be embarrassed? 7 years. You can't produce anything good and put it on the table when you're managing public funds. We use audit as an instrument to measure whether our governance systems are in order or not. And if the system says they are not in order
For 7 years.
For 7 years, what are you saying to the public? You sit on the commitments. They start with a small 1 billion. You allow it to grow up to 4 billion. Actually, we're sitting at 3 billion because we're coming back from 4 billion. And what that means is that in that 4 billion, there's money that is meant for poor people in this country, for training, for supporting them with all the sorts of things we've been talking about. But that money, you can't touch it until you clear. Where is it coming from? Where is it supposed to go? So these are some of the problems. And as I say, this thing has been there for over 10 years.
Right.
There are contracts there that people are still coming there to the service SETA and says, no, SETA owes me 7 million, 5 million. I say, but no, you are taking chances. 2012 contract. No, they are there.
Yeah.
Some of them, they even sent lawyers to write us letters. 2015. I mean, today is 2025. That's a good 10 years.
Yeah.
You come and says, no, we owe you 7 million. For what? Where were you all these years? But that contract expires, man. You know the law, or what is it called? That legislation, prescription.
Yeah.
Yeah, prescription. Access.
Just prescribed after 3 years.
After 3 years.
Yeah.
The bill is gone, man.
Yeah.
But you come after 10 years, you say, no, this guy owes me. And probably in the system, you might have been recorded as an unfulfilled transaction. And that's what goes into these billions of commitment. These are the things that we want to sort out.
Yeah.
So now as we speak, we've appointed 2 firms, 1 lawyers, 1 accounting and auditing firm. They are zooming into all those transactions, almost at the forensic level. So that there is an explanation for every single transaction. Whether it's 100 rands or 100,000 or 100 million, there must be an explanation. And we deal with every contract. If it means cancelling that contract, when we follow the due process of the law, it means we must go to court, we go to court. Because we want to release this money from commitment so that we can redeploy it to fund more students next
Absolutely. Just lastly, before we let you go, next year, this time, which will be another AGM, how should we judge you? 2 or 3 things against which we can judge you.
The first thing is we want to improve on the audit outcome. God willing, would really want to migrate from qualified to at least unqualified for a start. And I think that ambition is achievable. That's the first thing. Secondly, I would want a situation wherein come next year, this time, there are no less than 30,000 learners in the system enrolled and achieving whatever form of education and training. and there's no issue of we're still evaluating a window. We're still evaluating who to give a grant. By this time, we must be having service providers on site across the country. We must be having students in class, big numbers of students in class learning. There's a whole lot of things that we've planned for next year, and we want the situation wherein by the time we meet, we come here to report, we can see the difference between what was happening yesterday and today. And these are some of the things that we're talking about.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much, and we want to release you to go back to the AGM, which is still going on. But thank you for talking to us and educating our listeners today. Thank you.
Thank you very
so much. But also just alleviating some of the concerns. It sounds like
absolutely.
The Masora Commission of Inquiry might have just I'm just worried. The lawyer, did you hear him?
Yeah, lawyers and auditors.
Auditor on standby. Account for 100.
All right.
No, you mean business. Thank you so much, Tlhabana. We appreciate your time. We really do.
No, absolutely. I think we've come almost to the end. To me, unfortunately, we have to go. The AGM is still going on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there will be reports later on about what the final outcomes have been. But I think this was important just to put a spotlight on the issue of skills. I just worry about the young people, by the way, who actually don't think there's anything wrong with not trying to get any extra qualification, not trying to get a job out there. Maybe they've given up, but because remember, the 32% unemployment does not actually include people who have given up looking for work.
Sure.
And some of those are young people. I mean, how when you are 20, how do you give up on looking for work? Because what are you going to do the rest of your life?
No, you have to continue. You have to continue.
So we need to do, I think the services SETA and other SETAs need to do more, right, to talk about reskilling, upskilling, and continuously skilling.
Right.
In other words, there are people who are at work, right, but who are so poorly skilled that if that company closes, they'll never get a job somewhere else.
That's right, because the skills they have are no longer relevant.
Exactly, and we're now talking about AI. That didn't even come up in our 3-hour discussion. Artificial intelligence that may well take jobs of other people if they don't skill themselves in AI. AI won't take your job. It's about how do you use AI to remain in your job, to be agile, to be active, to be productive. So I hope that we got through to one or two people in a number of our stations. We want to thank you, listeners from Venda, Cape Town, Eastern Cape, KZN, and Mabatu, Mahikeng, and here in Johannesburg, who joined us through 10 community radio stations on this special frank dialogue on your radio. To me, your last word before we say bye-bye.
To all our listeners in Alex FM, Kofifi FM, Teta FM, Alfred Nzo Community Radio, Radio Zbonele, Radio Kwezi, Ikora FM, Highway Radio. We also have listeners from Mabatu FM and Vembe FM. Thank you so much for your time. I think my advice to you is, if you have access to data and you have access to a phone or a laptop or a computer, get on the Services SETA website now. And look at what they have on offer, and let's see if there aren't any advertisements for recruitment right now for next year.
Absolutely.
So check, look for that information, seek that information, and make sure that you're not left behind next year. But thank you for listening in.
Absolutely. Use that data usefully, right? You are on social media. There's nobody who doesn't have access to your phone. Use it effectively to empower yourself so that you can be able to have a proper and decent livelihood. But until we talk frankly again, may God bless you.